Chapter 475. Although Yang Chen's body has been nourished by the life essence of tens of thousands of immortals, it does not mean that there are no impurities. In fact, because of this, Yang Chen's body has the most impurities. After all, the life essence of various immortals with different attributes is absorbed by Yang Chen. Now it seems that Yang Chen has no problem, but that is only because of the low cultivation base. When the cultivation base is increasingly profound, this hidden danger will slowly reveal itself. In the end, old Demon Yi's demonic art is still a demonic art after all. It is easy to get started, but the future cultivation is difficult. This essentially cannot be changed. But now it is completely different. With the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, even if Yang Chen can't remove the impurities at once, it can't stop Yang Chen from taking this thing as a drink. A few more times, dozens of times, hundreds of times, there will always be a day when the impurities will be removed. This was what Yang Chen realized after discovering that he had far more impurities than Xiao Tian. At that time, Yang Chen was still very strange. Xiao Tian's bloodline was stimulated by the blood essence of the celestial dog. How could it have less impurities than his own body? After realizing this, he broke out in a cold sweat and felt a lingering fear. It seemed that this was God's way of letting Yang Chen rest easy, so he would send the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid to Yang Chen. This kind of gift, even if it came 100 times a day, Yang Chen would not refuse. "You are really my lucky star, Xiao Tian." Yang Chen couldn't help but pick up Xiao Tian and shouted happily. Maybe it was also aware of Yang Chen's happiness. Xiao Tian was also very happy to twist in Yang Chen's hands. The black impurities on the surface of the body were smeared in a mess. Brush, a stream of water appeared out of thin air. Just like the last time when he built the foundation, Yang Chen controlled this stream of water, and washed the impurities on himself and Xiao Tian clean, and quickly collected them into a jade bottle. The impurities discharged from the body were the best medicinal ingredients for a chronic poison. The 2 magic weapons were good things that made Yang Chen shocked to the point of jumping up. Yang Chen couldn't wait to see what the rest of them were. To Yang Chen's disappointment, there was only 1 jade cup left in the remaining 5 jade cases. The restriction could resonate with Xiao Tian and emit light. This time, it was still a blue light, but Xiao Tian was no longer the kind of big gulp, as if it had eaten a lot and needed to digest. The performance of Xiao Tian made Yang Chen very helpless. There was no way. Xiao Tian's level was too low. After swallowing the dragon qi of 2 restrictions, it was estimated that it was about to reach its limit. Naturally, the 3rd one couldn't absorb it any faster. However, Yang Chen's desire to know what it was becoming more and more urgent. He could only communicate with Xiao Tian with the beast controlling secret art and promised countless benefits, which allowed Xiao Tian to swallow the dragon qi for the last time. Even so, when Xiao Tian struggled to absorb the dragon qi of the 3rd restriction, he still couldn't resist the feeling of inhaling too much dragon qi, and fell asleep directly in the hands of Yang Chen. Yang Chen carefully sent Xiao Tian back to the medicine garden, placed the bright ray sword and the blood demon vine sword beside it, and then put a dozen pieces of magic weapon fragments, and then retreated. The blue jade cup on the jade case was carefully taken by Yang Chen in his hand, and placed it in front of his eyes. The inside of the jade cup was not empty, like a gourd, but the jade cup was filled with some transparent and clear liquid, colorless and tasteless. What was this? Yang Chen was careful not to shake a little bit, for fear of pouring out the little bit of liquid. After smelling it, there was nothing special. He wanted to input his spiritual power to try it, but thinking of the end of Jinling, Yang Chen still resisted and began to explore with his spiritual awareness. His spiritual awareness easily passed through the jade cup without stopping at all. Yang Chen was stunned. This was unprecedented. Could it be that this jade cup was not a magic weapon? He tried again, but his spiritual awareness was still very simple to pass through the jade cup without stopping. Yang Chen suddenly realized something. He carefully put the jade cup on the ground, closed his eyes and tried to explore with his spiritual awareness. The result surprised Yang Chen. Since Yang Chen cultivated the three purities secret art, his spiritual awareness has increased greatly, and after absorbing the killing intent of the immortal beheading stage, merging with various flames, and absorbing many other treasures, his spiritual awareness was now at the level of the middle Yuanying stage. Moreover, with the powerful spiritual awareness threads of the three purities secret art, even the old tree demon of the Deshang stage, Gui Shanyu, who was the best at hiding his body, was discovered by Yang Chen. However, Yang Chen closed his eyes now, but he could not find anything in front of him. If he hadn't clearly put the jade cup there, Yang Chen would have thought that there was nothing there. It was a miracle that it was able to ignore the divine sense of a good thing. If this thing was used to make a full body armor, wouldn't it mean that others could not find him with their spiritual awareness? However, the spiritual awareness could not be explored, and it could not be imprinted. How could this be refined? For the time being, Yang Chen has not thought of a safe way. Another thing that puzzled Yang Chen was what the colorless and transparent liquid in the jade cup was. In Yang Chen's memory, there was no very obvious memory, which was very strange. Was it just ordinary water? Very carefully, with a silver needle that was refined, he inserted it into the jade cup. After the tip of the needle was stained with a little liquid, it was slowly pulled out. As soon as he was half a foot away from the jade cup, Yang Chen suddenly noticed an extremely pure 10th water spirit power from the tip of the needle. The spirit power was so pure that the 10th water spirit power in Yang Chen's body was directly attracted and began to fluctuate. This. Yang Chen carefully felt the pure spirit power, but his mouth made two incredible sounds again. Where was this clear water? It was clearly the extremely pure 10th water true essence, the essential true essence for the cultivation of the 10th water true secret art. It was also the most original 10th water spirit power, the 10th water true essence that Yang Chen could not find. Now Yang Chen doesn't know how to describe his mood. It seems that there is no other way to express it except to laugh at the sky. However, there was no one here, and Yang Chen laughing alone seemed a bit out of place, so Yang Chen had to suppress this impulse. With the 10th water true essence, Yang Chen could cultivate the 10th water true secret art, so that he could take a step closer to the completion of the great Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art. It could also greatly improve his own cultivation base, which was what Yang Chen was eager to do at present. However, now Yang Chen was a little worried. In the jade cup, there was only a little 10th water true essence. Was it enough for him to cultivate the 10th water true secret art? Chapter 476. In any case, Yang Chen still had to collect this 10th water true essence first. Otherwise, if he was not careful while holding the jade cup, he would lose even this poor 10th water true essence. Preserving the 10th water true essence was not such a simple matter. The jade bottle was necessary. In addition, many formations and talismans were needed to prevent the 10th water true essence from escaping. In order to collect this 10th water true essence, Yang Chen had to make detailed preparations first. This was not surprising. With the cultivation base of the knife scar, it still took decades to collect the 7th metal true essence. Of course, Yang Chen didn't have to prepare for so long. After all, these 10th water true essence were already in the jade cup. As long as Yang Chen poured it into the jade bottle, it would be fine. So Yang Chen mainly prepared those talismans. Although there was a lot less preparation, Yang Chen still made at least 3 times more talismans to be on the safe side. There was no way. His cultivation base was low, not comparable to the knife scar, and he could only make up for it with quantity. Carefully picking up the jade cup, Yang Chen put the jade cup on the mouth of the jade bottle, tilted it slightly, and poured it into the jade bottle, trying not to waste a drop of 10th water true essence. There was no way. The jade cup was the size of a palm, and the 10th water true essence inside was only a shallow bottom, not even a small half of the bottle. Even if a drop was wasted, it could make Yang Chen distressed. As soon as the 10th water true essence was poured into the jade bottle, Yang Chen immediately put down the jade cup, and then a series of movements in his hands, dozens of talismans were quickly attached to the jade bottle. This set of movements was done by Yang Chen in a flash, without the slightest pause. When everything was completed, and the jade bottle did not leak the slightest 10th water true essence, Yang Chen was relieved. Putting the jade bottle into the merit ring, Yang Chen was about to put the jade cup away. When he glanced at the jade cup, he was stunned. At the bottom of the jade cup there was a trace of moisture. One had to know that Yang Chen had just tipped all the jade cups upside down. There shouldn't be any moisture in the jade cups. How could there still be any? This was not a mistake on Yang Chen's part. Yang Chen believed in his own memory. When he had just poured out, he had indeed poured out the 10th water true essence. The things at the bottom of the jade cup were definitely not left behind. After realizing that there was a problem, Yang Chen didn't put away the jade cup. He wanted to see what other magic this jade cup had. The waiting time was very uncomfortable. After Yang Chen cultivated the 3 purities secret art and the yin-yang 5 elements secret art, he also cultivated the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. Seeing that there was still no obvious change on the side of the jade cup, he simply took out the gourd and the jade cup, the distiller's yeast mixed with the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. He drank another cup and then slept on the sea map. It had to be said that there were indeed too many impurities in Yang Chen's body. After drinking the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, he began to sleep again, and his body still exuded a black greasy substance. In this underwater dragon palace treasure house, Yang Chen was not afraid of any danger at all and slept wantonly. This time, he slept even longer. After sleeping for 5 days and 5 nights after waking up, Yang Chen didn't even care about the grease on his body, and looked directly at the jade cup not far away. At the bottom of the jade cup there was a miraculous liquid again. Although it was only less than 1% of the original, it was obvious that there was liquid. Suppressing the excitement, Yang Chen carefully dipped it with a silver needle and pulled it out, and immediately felt the pure aura of the 10th water true essence again. Sure enough, this jade cup could actually condense the 10th water true essence. This alone was already invaluable. Coupled with the fact that his spiritual awareness could not detect it, it was another peerless treasure. Since he was now in the East China Sea, the 10th water was the water of the sea. Yang Chen simply waited here and waited until he collected enough 10th water true essence that he needed to cultivate the 10th water true secret art before going back. Taking advantage of this time, Yang Chen also used the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid to thoroughly discharge the garbage in his body, otherwise the hidden dangers would still be there, and there would be a lot of trouble in the future. The underwater dragon palace treasure house was so safe that Yang Chen didn't even have to worry about any danger in the process of his sleep. Although the fierce sun courtyard was equally safe, the old tree demon was now refining and absorbing the Penglai divine wood, and the clone was still sitting in the 100,000 mountains, so he couldn't spare much spirit to protect himself. The environment here was also suitable, and it would not arouse many people's suspicions. It was just suitable for Yang Chen to do these things. Yang Chen never thought that there were so many hidden dangers in his body. He was afraid, but he was also glad. If he didn't get the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid this time, he wouldn't be able to find this at all. From this point of view, Yang Chen was still very lucky. While waiting for the jade cup to absorb the 10th water true essence in the East China Sea, Yang Chen drank at least dozens of cups of the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid and slept for more than 200 days. At first, the black grease was discharged from his body, and then the color slowly began to fade, gradually turning gray, and finally, there were few impurities discharged from his body. However, the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid was a kind of thing that could cure diseases and defend oneself without diseases. It was not a big problem to drink more. The jade cup absorbed 4 cups of 10th water true essence in a row and slowly filled a jade bottle. With so much 10th water true essence, it was completely enough for Yang Chen to cultivate the 10th water true secret art. During this time, Xiao Tian has been sleeping. It seems that the third restriction really made it exceed its limit, and now it can't digest and absorb the dragon qi. Pinching his fingers, in the Dragon Palace treasure house, Yang Chen has been staying for another year. It was said that Yang Chen had to leave. He had been missing for a year, and he didn't know how anxious the sect was. Moreover, he promised the head of the palace that he would go out with Sun Qingxue to travel, and now he had to go to the Blue Cloud sect. Fortunately, he had an auction qualification for the Blue Cloud sect. The Blue Cloud sect was a big sect, and there would often be some good things auctioned. Maybe he could catch up with it, and it would be good to see what good things he could buy. Leaving the treasure house, when Yang Chen's shuttle appeared in the depths of the sea again, his heart suddenly moved. Would the guys who were tracking him have already fallen in the place of a few Qiankuan bags? After leaving the treasure house far away, Yang Chen secretly wrapped the other party's spiritual awareness imprint and slightly opened a gap. Just this small action, Yang Chen immediately felt that the spiritual awareness imprint began to tremble slightly, which could only mean one thing: the other party was still constantly looking for his own traces. Suddenly, a silent anger rushed into Yang Chen's heart. This kind of stalking tracking, could it be that this young master was really a clay-kneaded paper paste, and could be pinched by others? Chapter 477. The spiritual awareness imprint could only let the tracker know the direction of the target relative to himself. If the distance was close enough, within 100 miles, it might allow people to roughly circle the range of the target, but it could not allow people to find the exact location. No matter how strong the tracking master was, it was impossible to find the exact location of the other party, unless the target was trapped in some kind of formation that he had arranged, and there was a spiritual awareness imprint on his body. He might be able to accurately find the person. However, now the group of people who were tracking Yang Chen could accurately know where the spiritual awareness imprint on Yang Chen's body was. In this situation, they have experienced it several times this year. Above the sea, more than a dozen people looked at the sea under their feet with hatred. All of them had a look of anger. These people seemed to have experienced a lot of hardships, and they all looked a little embarrassed. Among the crowd, there was only one Yuanying stage master, and the others were all in the realm of the Jedon stage. The spiritual awareness imprint showed that Yang Chen was below them. They did not know how deep he was, but he was definitely in this area. This time it won't be another Qiankuan bag, right? The leader was the Yuanying stage master, but at this moment on the face of the Yuanying stage master, there was no arrogance of a Yuanying stage ancestor, but a look of boredom. The faces and performance of the others were not much better. For more than a year, a group of more than a dozen people tracked Yang Chen. Every time they tracked in a direction, they spent a lot of effort to drill into the bottom of the sea, only to find out that it turned out to be the territory of a terrifying monster. If it weren't for the cooperation of more than a dozen people, and everyone's cultivation base was not low, plus the Yuanying stage ancestor had some powerful magic weapons on him, they would be able to retreat. But even so, everyone was in a mess. The most uncomfortable thing was that every time they found it, it was either a Qiankuan bag or a thing with a spiritual awareness imprint. Yang Chen's figure, they didn't even see a hair. Once or twice, everyone still thought that Yang Chen was cunning. But after 8 or 10 times, in addition to being tired and numb, everyone had no other thoughts. However, despite this, everyone did not dare to relax. Yang Chen was the person designated by the higher-ups, so none of them dared to say no. They could only go deep into the sea again and again to investigate. Many people were wondering how Yang Chen knew the location of the powerful demonic beasts in the deep sea. He was actually so accurate every time, placing the items right next to the demonic beast. As long as they chased after the divine sense imprint, they would definitely alarm the demonic beast. The Yuanying stage ancestor was tired, but unlike other Jedon stage masters, he knew very well that once he could catch Yang Chen, how much credit it would be and how much benefit it would bring. The name questioning inner heart pill came from the top after the incident in the 100,000 Mountains. The effect was said to have been personally tested by Elder Hua Wanting of the Blue Cloud sect and Elder Min Huafeng of the Green Jade Immortal Island, and it was extremely powerful. Legend has it that it is comparable to the heaven-seizing pill, or even stronger. The heaven-seizing pill could only be taken by masters of the Deshang stage. Otherwise, for masters below the Deshang stage, after taking it, there was only one result: the spiritual power would skyrocket and the body would crack and die. But the questioning inner heart pill was different. It could be taken by people in all realms from top to bottom, and it sounded like the lower the realm, the higher the success rate. If Yang Chen got it, it meant that the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill would be in hand, and it was said that Yang Chen still kept the medicinal materials of a furnace of questioning inner heart pill, and another furnace would be opened after 30 years. 30 years was enough for Yang Chen's cultivation base to be higher. If Yang Chen stepped into the realm of the Jedon stage master, it meant that he would get more questioning inner heart pills than the previous one. Even if there was only one, at least the Yuanying stage leader could be sure that it was no longer a dream for him to step into the Deshang stage. This kind of huge benefit stimulation, how could it not make people fascinated and madly search for it? This was not counting the reward after getting it, before and after adding it up, not to mention the Yuanying stage ancestor. Even the masters of the Deshang stage would be willing to make such a trip. The above has already expressed their determination to get it, otherwise they would not send a Yuanying stage master and 12 Jedon stage masters to deal with a junior in the Foundation establishment stage. Even if this junior in the Foundation establishment stage was more powerful, in the face of such a huge disparity in numbers and realms, it was impossible to survive. At this moment, Yang Chen was in the sea below the group of people, sitting on the shuttle, looking at this group of people coldly. Those people were not well prepared. They didn't seem to know that Yang Chen was coming to the East China Sea. There were people with all attributes, but there were only 3 with the water attribute. This position was deliberately chosen by Yang Chen to wait here. Otherwise, with the speed of the shuttle, those people would not be able to catch up at all. Even if Yang Chen did not let go of the package of the spiritual awareness imprint, the other party would not be able to notice it. It may be because the spiritual awareness imprint on Yang Chen's body was different from the previous ones, so the tracker thought that this should not be the bait that Yang Chen dropped, it should be where the real body was. More than a dozen guys, their clothes were not uniform at all, and there was no sect mark on their bodies. If it was not deliberately concealed, then they were originally rogue cultivators and did not join the sect. But looking at these people's arrangements, it did not seem that there was no organization. That could only explain one thing: even if they were rogue cultivators, they were also rogue cultivators secretly supported by a big sect, used to deceive people's eyes and ears or to do this kind of shameful thing. At the bottom of the sea in this area, there was an open space. Yang Chen was now stopping in this open space, holding the bright ray sword that was bitten by Xiao Tian, quietly waiting for the people above to come down. He wanted to know who these people were and which sect they were. The Taishamen were very suspicious, but several other sects could not get rid of the suspicion. If they would come up with such a battle, they must want to capture Yang Chen alive. The temptation of the questioning inner heart pill was not something that ordinary people could resist, no matter which sect it was normal. The 3 water attribute Jedon stage masters quickly came down from the sea. The water escape method was very outstanding. In the sea, there was no tension and directly rushed down. In the sea, the scope of the spiritual awareness scan was greatly reduced, less than within 200 feet. The spiritual awareness was also blocked by the sea and could not be found. If they wanted to know what was below, they could only get closer and see. Non-water attribute cultivators, even if they could enter the water, fighting in the water was also very uncomfortable. Unfortunately, the spiritual awareness threads released by Yang Chen's three purities' secret art were not within this range. When the other party was still 400 feet away from Yang Chen had already discovered the whereabouts of the other three people. Chapter 478. Brush. Yang Chen's figure shook and disappeared in place. The flying shuttle appeared in an instant, flying at high speed. Just in the blink of an eye, it appeared behind a Jedon stage master. As soon as the flying shuttle was retracted, the bright ray sword in Yang Chen's hand directly pierced the other's back. The vibration of the water and the result of the exploration of the spiritual awareness made the Jedon stage master shocked, but he did not panic immediately. He opened his mouth, and a flying sword immediately appeared out of thin air, stabbing toward the figure of Yang Chen. The body that was carefully maintaining balance also quickly turned around and turned to face Yang Chen. However, he was fast. Yang Chen's speed was faster. It was very close, and Yang Chen's bright ray sword touched the opponent's body first. A water blue armor appeared out of thin air, and in this transparent sea water, it was almost invisible. The tip of the bright ray sword slightly paused, as if it had broken through something, and the bright ray sword in his hand directly stabbed down. Ding! When Yang Chen's bright ray sword had pierced the opponent's skin and entered the opponent's body, the opponent's flying sword also touched Yang Chen's body. However, Yang Chen's body was slightly bright, and a golden bell appeared on the surface of Yang Chen's body. The opponent's flying sword just made a crisp sound, and it could no longer stab. Puff! The tip of the bright ray sword directly came out from the back of the Jedon stage master. The Jedon stage master's face was incredible, but he could no longer make any sound. The bubbles in his mouth were bubbling, and the surrounding sea water was instantly dyed red with blood. Ding! There were two more sounds, but it was the two water attribute Jedon stage masters who came down at the same time as the dead Jedon stage master. They found the figure of Yang Chen, and found that Yang Chen had killed their companion in such a short time. Their eyes were blown, and the two flying swords killed on Yang Chen's body. The futility of the flying sword made the two guys turn pale with fright. They never thought that such a powerful guy would suddenly appear. Just that one moment of hesitation had decided life and death. The shuttle appeared again, and with lightning speed, it came to the side of the Jedon stage master on the left. Yang Chen's bright ray sword chopped down. The Jedon stage master subconsciously stretched out his hand to block, and then a series of dense scales appeared on his sleeve. Without waiting for the formation on the scales to launch, Yang Chen's bright ray sword had already reached the body. The raised arm was like a waist. It was easily removed by Yang Chen together with the outer sleeves and the arm. A patch of bright red blood appeared. It was unknown what kind of tough scales were used to make a defensive magic treasure, but it was completely useless. Under the severe pain of the Jedon stage master, his eyes blurred at the same time, a sharp blade crossed his neck, once again bringing out a thick blood color. The remaining Jedon stage master was shocked. From the beginning of tracking Yang Chen to now, even if they encountered the monster of the Yuanying stage at the bottom of the sea, such a situation had never happened. Everyone was in a mess, but it was only on the surface. No one died among the group of people. In just a short time, two of their companions were killed. How could this be accepted? The Jedon stage master, who was frightened, didn't think about a water escape and directly rushed to the vicinity of the sea. Then with a splash, he rushed out of the sea with a splash of water. The people on the sea were guarding like tigers watching their prey. The water that suddenly rushed out made everyone shocked, and they were almost in a mess. It was the Yuanying stage ancestor who discovered it in time and stopped everyone, and everyone calmed down again. However, the bloody waves that slowly rose from the sea, plus the two corpses that quickly floated up, let a group of people know what had happened. That kid is down there. The Jedon stage master who escaped this time had already seen the figure of Yang Chen and hurriedly shouted. He didn't want the credit of his desperate efforts to find Yang Chen's whereabouts to be shared by the people above, and hurriedly shouted out. When they heard this, the other people's faces didn't seem to have very shocked expressions anymore, and all of them were replaced with surprise. After tracking for more than a year, fighting with the monster of the sea for hundreds of times, there was almost no trace of Yang Chen. This time they actually found him. The stimulation of the questioning inner heart pill and huge benefits made everyone excited. If two of their companions died, they would die. That was underwater, and everyone was not good at it. But Yang Chen was not a water cultivator. How long could he hold his breath? After he appeared, he would completely become a prisoner of everyone. 10 Jidon stage masters plus a Yuanying stage ancestor against a junior in the foundation stage. There could never be any other result. Excitement was excitement, but none of these people underestimated their opponent. The bodies of the 2 Jidon stage masters had already explained everything. Not enough, that was under the water, unless Yang Chen didn't come out for a lifetime. As long as he dared to show his head, he would never escape the fate of being captured alive. Everyone's magic weapons were lit up, and the leading Yuanying stage ancestor took a round thing in his hand and threw it directly into the sea without thinking about it. When the others saw this, they all quickly rose into the air, and at the same time launched their own protective magic weapons, staring vigilantly at the sea below. That was a 10th water divine thunder, which was originally refined by a master of the Yuanying stage ancestor level. In this sea, its power was doubled. Yang Chen wanted to hide underwater. As long as a divine thunder exploded underwater, Yang Chen could not escape the fate of being stunned, and even the result of serious injuries and death was not ruled out. The range of this 10th water divine thunder wave was so large that even if Yang Chen had a shuttle, he could not escape in an instant. And obviously, the other party did not give him this opportunity at all. As soon as the 10th water divine thunder entered the water, Yang Chen noticed that something was wrong. With his current cultivation base, if he resisted it hard, plus the protection of the golden bell, he might be able to, but he was bound to be affected, and at that time, he might be taken advantage of. The only way to escape the power of the 10th water divine thunder seemed to be the only way out of the water. The other party simply wanted to force him out, which Yang Chen was very clear about. But at this moment, he couldn't care about anything else. Yang Chen tried his best to escape through the water and rush to the sea. Before waiting for Yang Chen to rush out of the water, the 10th water divine thunder exploded below. Boom! The huge sound was accompanied by a powerful shock wave, and Yang Chen was directly blasted from the sea into the sky. Within a radius of 10 miles, all of the sea suddenly exploded, bringing about a splash of water. The huge sound, even if Yang Chen had been prepared to cover his ears, it still made his head buzz. In the air, Yang Chen's balance had not yet been adjusted, and there were 2 flying swords like ghosts coming to Yang Chen's legs. Until this time, the other party still had the idea of capturing Yang Chen alive. Chapter 479. Being in the air, Yang Chen really couldn't avoid it. However, it seemed that Yang Chen himself did not want to avoid it. The scene of the 2 flying swords slashing on the golden bell was still vivid in Yang Chen's mind. Yang Chen did not believe that the cultivation of these people could break through the defense of the golden bell. Ding-ding, as Yang Chen expected, the 2 flying swords slashed on Yang Chen's 2 legs one after the other, but it could only make a crisp sound. Yang Chen was unscathed. Be careful, this kid has a magic weapon to protect his body. This situation was immediately seen by people, and someone immediately shouted, "Hey! Magic weapon to protect his body?" A cold snort suddenly appeared, and the leading Yuanying stage ancestor was very disdainful and shouted at Yang Chen, "Break for me." A red light, like a sword light, was emitted from the hands of the Yuanying stage ancestor and went straight to Yang Chen's chest. The surrounding Jidon stage masters were shocked, and one of them hurriedly shouted, "Ancestor, I want him alive." It seemed that he suddenly remembered that he still wanted Yang Chun to be alive, and the red light emitted by the Yuanying stage ancestor suddenly stagnated, and then the light seemed to weaken a little, but the speed did not decrease, and still heavily hit Yang Chen's chest. Yang Chen's body had recovered its balance by the 2 flying sword slashes, but immediately faced a blow to the chest. This blow was not the attack of a Jedon stage master, but a magic weapon attack of a Yuanying stage ancestor. Seeing that the red light had already hit Yang Chen's body, but on Yang Chen's face, there was a strange and elusive smile. When the Yuanying stage ancestor was puzzled, there was a low bell sound from Yang Chen's body. Buzz, the dull bell sound came from the place where Yang Chen's chest was hit by the Yuanying stage ancestor, and an invisible shock wave spread around. Wherever it went, be it people or objects, everything began to buzz and tremble along with the dull sound of the bell. Other than Yang Chen, there was no other sound in the ears of the others. Their ears were completely filled with the sound of the bell. The buzzing sound was continuous. The voice seemed to have penetrated through everyone's bodies and burrowed into everyone's minds. Even everything in his sea of consciousness began to tremble along with the sound of the bell. His body trembled involuntarily, and he could no longer hold anything in his hands. The flying sword fluttering in the air seemed to have been hit by a huge force. It fell down one after another, unable to establish any connection with the owner of the flying sword. Everyone stood rooted to the ground, trembling incessantly, but unable to do anything else. The explosion of the 10th water divine thunder is very cool. Yang Chen's figure appeared directly beside the Yuanying stage ancestor, accompanied by Yang Chen's calm but undisguised anger. Taste this bell sound is also good. In fact, Yang Chen himself was also affected by the sound of the bell, but the impact was negligible compared to others. But even so, Yang Chen could only use the escape technique once, and then he could no longer condense his spiritual power, and weapons such as the flying sword could no longer be used. The sound of the bell almost dissipated his spiritual awareness. However, for Yang Chen, it didn't matter even if he couldn't use his spiritual power at all. Don't look at the fact that the other party was all in the Yuanying stage, but at the same time that Yang Chen couldn't use his spiritual power, these enemies couldn't use it either. However, for a Yuanying stage master who couldn't use his spiritual power, facing Yang Chen who had cultivated the yellow turban strongman body refining technique, the tragedy was inevitable. Yang Chen had no concept of mercy at all. These people caught him, not to put him on a pedestal, and Yang Chen would naturally not be soft-hearted. With a big hand, he directly grabbed the back of the Yuanying stage ancestor's head, while the other hand grabbed the other's shoulder. He opened his arms and began to exert force. Under the horrified expression of the Yuanying stage ancestor, in the eyes of the surrounding Jedon stage masters, accompanied by a miserable scream, the sound of tearing suddenly sounded. The original high and mighty Yuanying stage ancestor, the ancestor in the mouth of a group of Jedon stage masters, was pulled out of the body by Yang Chen's hands. It was not known how many spiritual power had tempered the body of the Yuanying stage master, weak like a dough, directly separated into 2 pieces. The scream stopped abruptly, the bloody spine connected to the complete head, was thrown directly into the roots of the blood demon vine in the medicine garden by Yang Chen. On the other side of the body, it was carried in the hands of Yang Chen. After he skillfully took off the Qiankuan bag, it also became the flower fertilizer of the blood demon vine. Easily put away the Yuanying stage ancestor's Qiankuan bag, Yang Chen's gaze turned to the other Jedon stage masters. For cultivators, there was no shortage of people who were cut into several pieces. However, that was all the power of the flying sword. How could Yang Chen tear a Yuanying stage ancestor with his bare hands? Not to mention that everyone was still affected by the sound of the bell, even if there was no such influence. Watching Yang Chen tear the Yuanying stage ancestor like this, they were all scared out of their wits. Every injustice has a cause, every debt has a debtor. You and I have no grievances in the past, and there is no hatred in the present. Chasing you for no reason, I have to send you on your way." During the speech, Yang Chen's voice did not stop, and the people around the Yuanying stage ancestors were directly pulled over by him. One punch, and at least 6 heads were blown up in an instant. Until this moment, the influence of the bell gradually weakened, and they could finally use their spiritual power, but the remaining 4 Jidan stage masters had the courage to fight with Yang Chen. Even the Yuanying stage ancestors were not his opponents, let alone them. At the moment when the spiritual power could be controlled, in the minds of the 4 people, the idea of escaping directly emerged. However, the moment before the Jidan stage masters could use their spiritual power, Yang Chen recovered earlier than them. With a move of his mind, Wan Qian and her 6 apprentices appeared directly around him, and the 5-way mystic fairy formation surrounded the 4 Jidan stage masters. Originally, they were already scared to see Yang Chen. Now there were suddenly 5 more Jidan stage masters surrounding them, plus there was a Yuanying stage master on the side to deter them. Where did the 4 people have the courage to make a move? They obediently put down the restriction by Yang Chen one by one, and did not dare to move casually. With a flash of his figure, Yang Chen had put away the women and appeared in the shuttle with the 4 captives. The 4 Jidan stage masters were directly shocked, but after seeing the surrounding situation, they finally understood why Yang Chen could hide under the sea and not come out. What made the 4 people a little uneasy was that after Yang Chen banned them, he did not ask any questions. He just slowly checked the seized Qiankuan bag to see what he had gained. But the more this was the case, the more uneasy the hearts of the 4 people were. Chapter 480. What's your surname? Finally, after Yang Chen checked the Qiankuan bag one by one, Yang Chen took one of the Jidan stage masters to sit in front of him and asked, "Lu?" It seemed that he didn't expect Yang Chen to ask such a simple question, and the captive subconsciously answered directly. Then he was alert, but he felt that he didn't say anything, and there was a feeling of relief. "Do you have a grudge against me?" Yang Chen asked again. However, this time, the Jidan stage master didn't speak anymore, just stared at Yang Chen fiercely. Brush, a light flashed, the head of the Jidan stage master flew directly into the air, and the headless neck, blood spurted. In Yang Chen's hand, he didn't know when he had already grasped the hilt of the bright ray sword. Without looking at the flying head, Yang Chen's hand stroked the blade of the bright ray sword, as if caressing the skin of a lover, patiently and meticulously. Until the blood spurted out, Yang Chen slowly collected the body into the medicine garden and filled it as fertilizer. Then the bright ray sword was put on the table by his hand. "Actually, I don't want to know your purpose." The shuttle would not be stained with blood at all, so Yang Chen would not be afraid of the blood spraying everywhere. He collected it and sent it to the medicine garden, but he said lazily, "Because of your purpose, I know it even if you don't say it. Chasing me, there are only a few reasons. Seeking revenge, killing to silence, or trying to take something from me." While continuing with his own tone, Yang Chen crossed his legs. "Killing people, there are no more than these reasons, right?" This was the truth. Even if the remaining 3 guys were not happy, they had to admit that what Yang Chen said was not wrong. Killing people for no reason, except for the disciples of the demon sex or the monster race, the Tao sex cultivators would generally not do it, unless there was a last resort. Of course, those who abandoned themselves to despair did not count, but these people were clearly not that kind of people. "Before that ancestor attacked, one of you shouted that he wanted me alive." Yang Chen shook his head and said with a smile, "That means you don't want me dead. Then it's even easier to guess. It's definitely not revenge. Otherwise, you guys would love to see me dead, right? It seems that I, a junior in the foundation stage, only have some alchemy skills that can make a Yuanying stage ancestor and more than a dozen Jidan stage masters take action." Yang Chen looked at the 3 prisoners in front of him and asked curiously, "What do you want? Questioning inner heart pill? Or the heaven-seizing pill? Or both?" The three people didn't have any reaction at all. They didn't know if they were unwilling or afraid, but Yang Chen's words were like a poisonous snake, ruthlessly drilling into the ears of the three people, disintegrating their persistence little by little. Since you are willing to be captured, I think you don't want to die. Yang Chen's words really hit the hearts of the three. After all, if they really wanted to be a dead man, they would have done it just now, and they wouldn't have to wait until now. It was not easy to cultivate to the Jedon stage. If there was a chance, no one would be willing to die. This senior, I don't know if you can tell me who is going to deal with me? Yang Chen turned his head to the leftmost Jedon stage master and asked very seriously. Humph. The Jedon stage master seemed to want to express his temperament or struggle, and snorted softly. Then, everyone saw a flash of sword light, and the head of the guy who just snorted flew directly up and was beheaded by Yang Chen. He said he would make a move, and he didn't even give a chance to hesitate, and the head was cleanly beheaded. One might not be shocking enough, but two in a row, especially when the next one was likely to be himself, the feeling was completely different. The remaining two Jedon stage masters instantly turned ashen. They had long heard that Yang Chen was a secular executioner, and it was indeed a well-deserved reputation. No one would have thought that Yang Chen would be so ruthless that even a wrong word, or even just a voice to express emotions, would immediately make a move against Yang Chen's mind. Even if the two Jedon stage masters were used to seeing life and death, they still couldn't help but tremble in their hearts when facing Yang Chen at this moment. The dignified Jedon stage master, facing a junior in the foundation stage, did not even dare to look at him. Every injustice has its perpetrator, every debt has its debtor. Yang Chen sighed slightly and shook his head. I am not a bloodthirsty person, but I am not a good person either. If you want to muddle through, or still want to save the face of the senior, then come and try. If you have the guts, give me a quick death. Excessive fear stimulated one of the remaining two Jedon stage masters to suddenly go crazy and shouted at Yang Chen. As you wish. Yang Chen didn't even give the other party a chance to regret. His mouth opened and his sword fell. The shouting guy's head flew high and he fell down. The gushing blood sprayed on the remaining body. The guy who tracked me was very smart, he didn't go with you. Putting the bright ray sword to the side, regardless of the blood still dripping from the tip of the sword, Yang Chen said to the remaining guy. His spiritual awareness mark is still in my sea of consciousness. The remaining guys raised their heads blankly and didn't seem to understand why Yang Chen would say that. But Yang Chen actually knew that the person who was tracking was not among them, which made him a little surprised. This also means that you don't have to say it. Yang Chen sneered and said, I will go to him. There is no need for you. In fact, it is very redundant. Maybe he will know more. What do you say, senior? As he said that, Yang Chen's hand had once again touched the hilt of the bright ray sword. This action immediately scared the remaining guys, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. I said. Yang Chen's hand just lifted up a little, and the other party had already hurriedly begged for mercy. The embarrassed appearance, there was no trace of the Jedon stage master's temperament. I'm listening, Yang Chen said coldly, but his hand did not leave the hilt of the sword. Yes. Just said a word, the Jedon stage master was suddenly stunned, as if there was something strange, and then he said, yes. After saying two words, the Jedon stage master's face suddenly showed a look of horror, and his body suddenly trembled violently. Yang Chen was stunned, and then immediately understood. He didn't want to think about it. He threw the Jedon stage master out of the shuttle, and then the shuttle accelerated and rushed forward. Just flying out more than 200 feet, the body of the Jedon stage master suddenly exploded. In the loud sound, it turned into a pile of minced meat. Chapter 481. When the Jedon stage master exploded and died, the power of the explosion was not ordinary. Even if Yang Chen had already driven the shuttle to escape more than 200 feet away, he still felt the powerful explosive force. Although it was not as powerful as the explosion of the 10th water divine thunder in the sea, if it exploded in the shuttle, it might cause some damage to the shuttle. Yang Chen could not sacrifice the shuttle now, let alone repair it. Once it was damaged, it would not be worth the loss. This was clearly the practice of some of the dead warriors. When they joined certain organizations or went out for a certain task, they were restricted by the experts in the organization in advance. Once they wanted to reveal secrets, they would trigger the restriction, which would lead to the end of exploding and dying. The Jedon stage master was obviously restricted. However, looking at the shocked eyes of the Jedon stage master before he died, it seemed that he did not think that he would be restricted. Yang Chen estimated that he did not even know when he was restricted, otherwise he would not look like that. In this way, Yang Chen was impressed by the person behind the scenes. It was not an ordinary person who could be so cruel to his own people. This kind of technique was usually prevalent in the demon sections. In the Dao sects, unless it was a dead warrior, they would use this method. Ordinary people would rarely come into contact with it. For the death of these people in front of him, Yang Chen really didn't care. Without them, Yang Chen could still dig out the planner behind it. As Yang Chen said before, the guy who was responsible for tracking was not among these people. So far, the people brought by the Yuanying stage ancestor had died, but the spiritual awareness imprint in Yang Chen's sea of consciousness was still there, which could only explain one thing: he was not dead yet. If someone was alive, Yang Chen could track the whereabouts of the other party. Maybe the guy who planned this would never dream that Yang Chen could move the thing that was originally on the object into his own sea of consciousness, let alone think that Yang Chen could rely on a spiritual awareness imprint to track the person who wanted to track him. However, Yang Chen did not intend to start doing this now. Since the other party was able to place restrictions on the people who were attacking them, then they could also place restrictions on the people who were pursuing them. Before Yang Chen had the means to undo this restriction, Yang Chen was not prepared to take the risk. The spiritual awareness imprint in the sea of consciousness was once again tightly wrapped by Yang Chen's spiritual awareness threads, leaving no gap, eliminating the possibility of the other party being able to track Yang Chen again. However, Yang Chen had to keep this spiritual awareness imprint. One day, when Yang Chen's cultivation was high enough, this would be a clue to find someone to settle accounts with. The corpses of a group of golden core and nascent soul cultivators had become fertilizer for the blood demon vine. To Yang Chen's surprise, Xiao Tian also woke up before the battle, just in time to catch up with the battle. The dragon chi of the three restrictions made Xiao Tian a little abnormal. So far, it seems that it is still a full meal that has not been digested. Even the fragments of the flying sword that Yang Chen prepared for it did not look at it. It was coiled on the blood demon vine sword, motionless. It was estimated that it was still digesting. Yang Chen no longer disturbed Xiao Tian and let it be free in the medicine garden. He himself drove the shuttle and flew in the direction of the blue cloud sect. Of course, when he was at sea, it was still convenient to be at the bottom of the sea, not only to hide his whereabouts, but also not to attract attention. There would be a period of time on the road, and Yang Chen had nothing to do, so he sat in the shuttle and began to cultivate. When collecting the 10th water true essence, Yang Chen had been drinking the mixed liquid of the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid and distiller's yeast. After drinking it, he fell asleep and then waited for the impurities to be eliminated. He had not cultivated and practiced. Now that the impurities in his body have been removed, this was the first time he had cultivated under such circumstances. The 3 purities secret art was good. It was a secret art to cultivate spiritual awareness, and it had little to do with the body. However, now the 3rd layer of the 3 purities secret art, Yang Chen has cultivated it to the point of being very familiar, and his spiritual awareness has reached the point of condensing again. However, this kind of condensation is not a overnight work. Normally, it would take decades and hundreds of years. Fortunately, now Yang Chun has the spiritual awareness of the middle Yuanying stage, and if the spiritual awareness does not increase for the time being, it will not affect Yang Chun too much. Yang Chun now has at least two things in his hands that can increase both his cultivation base and his spiritual awareness. The sect has collected more than 100 kinds of flames for Yang Chun, among which there are many kinds of third-grade flames. Once Yang Chun fully absorbs them, it will immediately cause another change in his sea of consciousness, and his spiritual awareness will also increase. The other was the 10th water true essence in Yang Chun's hands. This was an essential thing for the cultivation of the 10th water true secret art in the great Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art, and it was also a divine object that could cause changes in the nature of the sea of consciousness. After absorbing the 10th water true essence, maybe a miniature ocean will really be formed in the sea of consciousness. As for the improvement of cultivation base and spiritual awareness, it was simply a piece of cake. However, Yang Chun did not intend to do these two things in a short time. So far, the growth of Yang Chun's cultivation base has far exceeded that of Gao Yu, Shi Shanshan, Sun Qingxue, and Gong Sunling, these cultivation geniuses with a full value single attribute spirit root. More haste, less speed, this was the most basic truth, everyone understood, and Yang Chun would not make mistakes. The rapid improvement of the cultivation base required a longer time to consolidate the realm. This was something that could not be helped. If there was a gain, there must be a price, and no power was without a price. What Yang Chun needed now was to consolidate his cultivation base at ease, so as not to have any big problems. The three purities secret art did not bring much surprise to Yang Chun. The real surprise was in the yellow turban strongman body refining technique and the yin-yang 5 elements secret art. When Yang Chun finished cultivating the three purities secret art, and then began to cultivate the yin-yang 5 elements secret art, he immediately noticed the changes in his body. The speed at which the various spiritual powers flowed in the meridians of the body was almost 30% faster than usual. During the battle, Yang Chun did not notice it, and there was no extra energy to care about those things, but now in the state of cultivation, he immediately discovered the abnormality. The speed of the spiritual power flow accelerated, and Yang Chun had always thought that it was because the cultivation base was too low, causing some hindrances in some parts of the meridians to go up and down. Almost all disappeared. The spiritual power flowed in the body, without any feeling of being bound, it was round and very free. Not only that, after the completion of the yin-yang 5 elements secret art, Yang Chun himself could clearly perceive that compared to the past, the increase of the spiritual power in this cycle was also a bit more. The circulation speed accelerated, there was no hindrance in the meridians, coupled with the increase of spiritual power, it seemed not a big change, but after the accumulation of a long time, it was definitely a crazy gap that made people envious and jealous to the extreme. The yin-yang 5 elements secret art had already given Yang Chun a surprise, but the bigger surprise came from the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. Chapter 482. Yang Chun's body, because of old demon Yi's demonic art, has absorbed the life essence of tens of thousands of immortals, and it has long been strong. Without relying on any other assistance, he can achieve physical strength that exceeds 1,000 jin. However, this demonic art also has a drawback, that is, the absorption of too much life essence is too mixed, resulting in a lot of impurities in the body. This was a hidden danger, but he did not expect that Yang Chun was actually lucky enough to get so many 4C's mysterious coral liquid. Almost all the impurities in the body were discharged. When he was cultivating the yellow turban strongman body refining technique, the feeling of the sudden burst of power in the body and pouring into the body almost shocked Yang Chun. He knew that there would be benefits, but he did not expect it to be so powerful. After removing the impurities in the body, the feeling of the body refining technique transforming the muscles and bones was clearly reflected in Yang Chun's sea of consciousness. It was as if Yang Chun himself was magnified countless times in the sea of consciousness, letting his soul leave the body and watching all this happen. Under the effect of the body refining technique, the bones were more compact and the strength was greatly increased. The muscles were also like someone was constantly increasing the strength and thickness of Yang Chen's body. As for the most important muscles, the changes were even more amazing. Just looking at the increased strength, he knew that the strength had definitely increased. Not only that, but the disadvantages of the yellow turban strongman body refining technique in the current stage of the transformation of the whole body seemed to be seen by Yang Chen one by one. Where the strengthening was not uniform enough, and where some places were too much, it was clear at a glance. Only now did Yang Chen know why the yellow turban strongman body refining technique would only increase the strength in the early stage, but it would make people become such a barbaric physique. He also knew why the yellow turban strongman body refining technique could be restored to the original normal body shape in the later stage. In the beginning, this kind of body refining technique focused too much on the tempering of the muscles and bones. Naturally, there would be some imbalance, and the swollen muscles would of course become the nemesis of speed. Without Yang Chen's ability, apart from cultivating the body refining technique to the extreme step by step, it would be impossible to restore his original body shape. But now, Yang Chen already knew where the problem was, and his current body was more adapted to the body refining effect of the body refining technique. As long as Yang Chen spent a period of time concentrating on certain parts, he could readjust the uneven parts of the body refining. In this way, Yang Chen in the early stage of the yellow turban strongman body refining technique can achieve the effect of the late stage cultivation. This wasn't just a change in his physique. At the same time, it also meant another unbelievable miracle in terms of physical strength. Just this time cultivating the body refining technique, Yang Chen felt that the effect of strength improvement was much higher than before. It seemed that no matter what kind of cultivation, the body was still the most basic and most important. After a heavenly cycle, the effect of the body refining technique alone was 50% better than usual. The surging force of the muscles made Yang Chen feel a little surprised. According to this situation, in less than a few hundred years, it was estimated that without waiting for ascension, Yang Chen could reach the level of senior yellow turban strongman. It must be known that the senior yellow turban strongman, even in a place like the heavenly court where spiritual energy was almost everywhere, it would take at least a few hundred years to reach it. Moreover, the first person to cultivate was by no means a mortal. Yang Chen didn't know how to evaluate his heaven-defying luck. The old Dragon King was really powerful. No wonder he wanted a separate treasure house. Those magic weapons that won by weight really couldn't be compared with the things that Yang Chen already had in his hand. With good things, Yang Chen's first thought was of course his master. This 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, he would let his master drink it as water when he went back. He could also take a bath. Anyway, there was such a big lake, how much could he want? As for other people who had a good relationship with Yang Chen, the master ancestor, the head of the palace, the old tree demon, other elders, senior sisters, and senior brothers, everyone had a big cup first. Cure illness, strengthen the body without illness, Chunyang Palace had Yang Chen, and the welfare treatment had been greatly improved. In the past, when Yang Chen and Shi Shanshan went to get the blood essence of the howling celestial dog, he still appreciated Shi Shanshan's tea-making skills. However, what Yang Chen liked was wine, and tea was only something that he would taste occasionally. Now that there was a lake of distiller's yeast, it seemed necessary to brew some refreshing wine to mix. Although the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid was good, every time he drank it, he had to sleep, which was inconvenient. Good wine still needed to be mixed with wine to taste better. That gourd, Yang Chen had decided to call it a wine pot. There was a large lake of distiller's yeast for tens of thousands of years. What was it if not a wine pot? This was also just right. Yang Chen's newly brewed wine could also be put in it. Anyway, it could be put in, and it would not be mixed with each other. When he wanted to drink, he could pour it out at any time. If the Blue Cloud sect had an auction, he could go and collect a large number of raw materials for winemaking. At the same time, he would also go and see little sister Sun Qingxue. If it was convenient, he would also give her a cup of the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid, which was absolutely good for her cultivation. Along the way, Yang Chen was cultivating. When he was close to the Blue Cloud sect, he put away the shuttle, then summoned an ordinary flying sword, and slowly flew to the gate of the Blue Cloud sect. This was not the first time Yang Chen came. The last time he came was to invite Elder Hua Wanting. The people of the Blue Cloud sect were also very familiar with Yang Chen. When they heard that he was looking for Sun Qingxue, they sent a message without saying anything. A few hours later, Yang Chen saw Sun Qingxue in a hurry. "Hello, big brother Yang." Sun Qingxue still had a young face. When she saw Yang Chen, her face instantly became a smile like a flower, and she came up and said hello. Yang Chen could come alone to find her. Sun Qingxue's mood was not generally good. This proud disciple of Elder Hua, the current genius disciple of the Blue Cloud sect, was like a little girl in love. After calling Yang Chen, she didn't know why she still blushed. Little Shui. Yang Chen has a kind of care for Sun Qingxue for his younger sister. Although it is a little awkward now, it does not prevent Yang Chen from seeing Sun Qingxue. Of course, there is another reason to be happy. In the future, the famous dancing snow fairy, in front of him, unexpectedly has such an expression. Thinking about it, there is an indescribable sense of satisfaction. I was just passing by, so I came to see. Soon, seeing Sun Qingxue's happiness was replaced by a headache. Looking at Sun Qingxue's happy appearance, Yang Chen could not say anything to hurt her. He could only find something to say. "Don't you invite me to the mountain gate?" Sun Qingxue almost jumped into the mountain gate with Yang Chen, and happily introduced some famous scenery of the Blue Cloud sect to Yang Chen. Her happy appearance was from the bottom of her heart. "Is there an auction in the sect recently? I am eligible to participate." After a long time, when he was resting in the small courtyard of Sun Qingxue, Yang Chen took the opportunity to ask. Chapter 483. Auction. Sun Qingxue was startled. She didn't think there was anything wrong with Yang Chen wanting to participate in the auction, but because of the current schedule, it will only be 10 days later. "What does Brother Yang want to buy? Maybe I can help you." "I don't have a specific goal." Yang Chen was not in a hurry. 10 days, Yang Chen could still afford to wait. Blue Cloud sect often had good things for auction. He didn't know what he could catch this time. However, for Sun Qingxue there was nothing special to hide. "I plan to buy some raw materials for wine. If there are any miscellaneous books, I can also buy them." Yang Chen was famous for his love of miscellaneous books. The last time he treated Elder Hua Wanting, he directly asked for 20,000 books. Sun Qingxue was present at the time, so she was very clear about this. "There may not be many books at the auction." Sun Qingxue shook her head and said very directly, "If it can be auctioned, it must be valuable martial arts, alchemy, refining techniques, and so on. Miscellaneous books can't be auctioned." Yang Chen didn't have such an idea to buy miscellaneous books at the auction. He just wanted to use this as a cover. Coming to Blue Cloud sect, he just wanted to see what good things there were, but he really didn't have a fixed goal. "There is a place selling the raw materials for wine. Brother Yang, you don't have to wait until the auction." Sun Qingxue immediately began to plan another request for Yang Chen. In the internal market of Blue Cloud sect, there is a world-famous wine called Qingyun Immortal School. This is a unique wine of the sect. "If Brother Yang likes it, I will buy some for you." The Blue Cloud Immortal Stream was made by a low-level disciple of the Blue Cloud sect who had no hope of cultivation. After being improved by some masters, it became a unique wine of the Blue Cloud sect. Those who were not disciples of the Blue Cloud sect or friends who had a close relationship with the Blue Cloud sect could not enjoy it. Yang Chen had been here twice, but because the timing was not right, he did not get to taste this fine wine. Originally, with Sun Qingshue's status as a foundation-building disciple, she wasn't qualified to buy it. But now that Sun Qingxue was under the tutelage of Elder Hua Wanting, it was really not a troublesome matter to want some Qingyun Immortal school. Moreover, with Sun Qingshue's current aptitude, if Sun Qingxue revealed the slightest intention to purchase the Qingyun Immortal school, many people would be willing to purchase it for Sun Qingxue. Of course, Yang Chen now has the qualifications to buy, even the qualifications to participate in the sect auction, not to mention buying the Green Cloud Immortal School. In his previous life, Yang Chen had also heard of the famous Qingyun Celestial School, but he never had the chance to. Now that Sun Qingxue had mentioned it, Yang Chen had no choice but to give it a try. Okay, let's go to this Qingyun Celestial School and see what it tastes like. With his interest aroused, Yang Chen immediately stood up. Sun Qingxue smiled sweetly and rushed in front of Yang Chen, leading the way for Yang Chen. The two drove the flying sword and soon came to the market inside the sect. The Blue Cloud sect was worthy of being a first-class sect. Even the internal market was so lively. Chunyang Palace was relatively worse, and even the sect's auction was rarely held. Just the number of disciples, Chunyang Palace had a long way to go to catch up. The market was crowded with people, there were more disciples in the foundation building stage, but there were also many Jedan stage masters, and even Yuanying stage ancestors occasionally appeared. The sect encouraged disciples to exchange some of the things they had obtained with each other, learning from each other's strengths to make up for their weaknesses. This was the same for almost all the major sections. Sun Qingxue pulled Yang Chen and soon came to a shop that looked very inconspicuous. It was inconspicuous because the shop was very small. There was only one room, and there were 3 wine jars on a simple wooden counter inside. Other than these, there was nothing else, not even a stool for people to sit on. The shop owner was a middle-aged man with an average cultivation level, which seemed to be in the middle stage of foundation building. He was dressed very neatly, holding a wine spoon and pouring wine into a small wine pot. However, compared to the simplicity of the shop, there was a long line of people outside the shop. Almost everyone was holding a wine vessel, be it a gourd, a small bottle, or a jade pot, and they all looked expectant. Oh no, it seems that we won't be able to make it today. Looking at this situation, Sun Qingxue frowned. Qingyun Immortal School only sells 3 jars a day, and they don't wait for the overdue ones. What should we do? It was not easy for Yang Chen to come to the Blue Cloud sect. It was rare for him to say that he wanted to drink, but there were so many people, which made it very difficult for Sun Qingxue. She could only look at the people in front of her to see if there was anyone she knew and see if she could replace one of them. The air was filled with a fragrance of wine, and the closer they got to the shop, the stronger the smell. Yang Chen raised his head, took a few deep sniffs, and made a hissing sound. His actions were like a standard drunkard. Among the people in the line next to him, someone suddenly smiled. It was estimated that they had done similar actions many times before. However, although they were drunkards, no one was willing to give up their position. 3 jars a day, and each person could not exceed 500 grams. In total, only 100 people could taste the wine every day, and no one wanted to give up the precious opportunity to enjoy it to others. Sun Qingxue had already seen the back of the line from the front. To her disappointment, there was not a single person she knew in the long line. Moreover, it was obvious that there were more than 100 people in the line. There were at least 300 people, and it seemed that the share of the wine for the next 3 days had already been reserved. In the Blue Cloud sect, it was impossible to cut the queue. Perhaps it could be done if there was a strong backer outside, but here, even the strongest person would not dare to break the rules. This was the confidence of the Blue Cloud sect. Seeing that there was no way to let Yang Chen taste the wine, Sun Qingxue was so anxious that she almost cried. It was rare for Yang Chen to come, but he encountered such a situation. How could Sun Qingxue accept it? Don't worry, Xiaoxue. Yang Chen looked at Sun Qingxue's anxious look and was touched. He immediately comforted her. I have already smelled the wine. It's okay if I can't drink it. However, the more Yang Chen said, the more anxious Sun Qingxue became. She frowned and suddenly said, I will go and find Master to think of a way. It was only 500 grams of wine, so Yang Chen did not care about it. Moreover, this Qingyun celestial school smelled really ordinary. After tasting the distiller's yeast in the gourd left by the old Dragon King, this level of wine could no longer arouse Yang Chen's liquor bug. Please don't. What a joke. It was too unreasonable to trouble a Mahayana stage expert for a little wine. Yang Chen blurted out, This wine tastes ordinary, but it's not that you have to drink it. Watch me personally brew some peerless delicacies for you to have a taste. Shameless boasting. Before Sun Qingxue could say anything, someone beside her had already reprimanded her loudly. Chapter 484. Yang Chen and Sun Qingxue looked in the direction of the voice at the same time. Even the people who were waiting for old wine couldn't help but look in that direction out of curiosity. It was an exquisite restaurant, which was completely different from the shabby shops here. The 4-story restaurant looked very magnificent, and there were people coming in and out from time to time. Cultivators were also human and had a desire for good food. However, most of their time was spent on cultivation, so they didn't pay much attention to this aspect of enjoyment. However, it didn't eliminate the possibility that some people liked this kind of food. The person who had spoken was on the 3rd floor of the restaurant. Young man, the Qingyun Immortal sect is famous all over the world. How dare you slander it? The person who had spoken just now spoke again in a reprimanding tone. I'm coaxing my little sister. What does it have to do with you? Yang Chen didn't care about that, so he retorted. Everyone in the queue had seen how anxious Sun Qingxue looked just now, so they naturally knew why Yang Chen had said those words. Strictly speaking, those words were really words used to coax a child, so they couldn't be taken seriously. Therefore, no one said much. On the contrary, the person upstairs had only heard Yang Chen mention the Qingyun Immortal sect and didn't care why Yang Chen had said those words. That was why he had reprimanded him. Hearing Yang Chen's words, the person in the restaurant seemed to have realized that his interruption was unnecessary. However, Yang Chen's words put him in a difficult position, so he had no choice but to argue with Yang Chen. The Qingyun Immortal sect is so mediocre. What kind of wine dares to call it good wine? Young man, if you don't give me an explanation today, I'll have to talk to your elders. Within the Blue Cloud sect, no one dared to fight and kill at will, so the person upstairs had said that. If this had happened outside, Yang Chen might have to use his head as compensation. Only a frog at the bottom of a well who hasn't seen the world would treat this kind of wine as a treasure. Yang Chen snorted coldly. Explanation? On what basis? On the basis of my name as the wine immortal. The person upstairs couldn't help it anymore. Yang Chen repeatedly belittled the Qingyun Immortal sect, and even the people who admired the Qingyun Immortal sect. How could the person upstairs let it go? Not to mention the person upstairs, even the people downstairs who were queuing to drink, looked at Yang Chen with unfriendly eyes. What was a frog at the bottom of a well? Could it be that all of them were frogs at the bottom of a well who had never seen the world? Everyone's eyes suddenly blurred, and a middle-aged man? The imposing manner of the Yuanying stage ancestor was not released, but an invisible power was pressing on Yang Chen. It seemed to make him feel the huge pressure. Unfortunately, this pretense did not work at all in front of Yang Chen. The power issued by the wine immortal was simply playing the lute to a cow. Yang Chen did not even react. Hearing the name of the wine immortal, and seeing the appearance of the wine immortal, Sun Qingxue knew that it was not good. She hurriedly stepped forward and gently pulled the lapel of Yang Chen's clothes and whispered, "Big Brother Yang, Senior Wine Immortal is a guest of the sect." Although Sun Qingshue's master was a master of the Desheng stage, she was still very respectful of these guests. She couldn't help but remind Yang Chen, Senior Wine Immortal is addicted to wine and has tasted all the good wines in the world. If there is any wine that can be praised by the senior, the value will immediately rise. To be honest, Sun Qingxue was a little anxious. Yang Chen made the wine immortal unhappy and there would be a conflict. If there was a conflict, it would definitely be Yang Chen, the younger generation of the foundation stage, who would suffer a loss, and all this was because of her. How could Sun Qingxue be calm? The anxious look was overflowing. This old man will not lower himself to the same level as a little girl. The wine immortal seemed to be targeting Yang Chen, who asked him to say that the Qingyun Immortal School was ordinary. Kid, today, no matter why you say this kind of words, either you apologize to the Qingyun Immortal School winery, or you take out the evidence of the Qingyun Immortal School, otherwise, don't blame this old man for being impolite. Wine Immortal? It's self-titled. Yang Chen couldn't see this kind of guy who was rushing to be abused. He sneered and said, "You have drunk a few kinds of wine and dare to call yourself a wine immortal? You want to deceive me into drinking wine. Do you think I am a child?" Asking people to come up with evidence to prove that Qingyun Immortal School was ordinary, to put it bluntly, he wanted Yang Chen to come up with a better wine. This statement did have the suspicion of cheating wine to drink. Moreover, the real wine immortal seemed to have been cut off by Yang Chen. How could he care about a guy who claimed to be a wine immortal in the mortal world? The wine immortal was already a Yuanying stage ancestor, but he was also speechless for a long time by Yang Chen's word. The dignified wine immortal actually became a scoundrel who cheated wine to drink. How could the proud wine immortal bear it? "The boy is rude," someone shouted from the side. The queue was full of people who liked wine and had heard of the name of the wine immortal. Yang Chen reprimanded like this, how could it not make people filled with righteous indignation? Good, good, good. The wine immortal was so angry that he smiled, pointed to Yang Chen, and said 3 good words. "This old man has not been out of the mountain for a long time. It seems that there is a group of great juniors. Today, this old man will not cheat you to drink wine, as long as you can come up with a glass of wine that surpasses Qingyun Immortal School. This old man's things, you can choose one at will. Is this true?" Yang Chen's eyebrows raised and he asked in a deep voice, "A glass of wine for a magic weapon of a Yuanying stage ancestor, this deal was worth doing." A word is said. The wine immortal raised his head and said proudly, "He has this capital to be proud, the world's wine, he has not yet drunk, even the 5 elements of chaos wine of the 5 elements sect, at most, is only as famous as Qingyun Immortal School, everyone is not divided, there is little difference, to say that it surpasses Qingyun Immortal School, it is absolutely impossible. Everyone present can testify." "Good," Yang Chen agreed. "However, if you can't come up with it, what should I do?" The wine immortal did not give Yang Chen a chance to deceive, and immediately asked. The people next to him were also adding fuel to the fire, loudly urging Yang Chen. "What do you want?" Yang Chen was not pretentious and asked directly. "You are a younger generation, you can't come up with anything decent." At this moment, the wine immortal fully showed the generosity of a senior, waved his hand, and said very generously, "As long as you apologize to the Qingyun winery in front of everyone, and admit that you are talking nonsense." The people around, listening to the wine immortal predecessor, is to correct the name of the sect Qingyun Immortal School, one by one cheered loudly. As if they had already won. "Senior, are you sure you won't regret it?" Yang Chen suddenly asked with a smile. "What is there to regret?" At this moment, the wine immortal has determined that Yang Chen is looking for a chance to escape. Where will he give him such a chance? This old man will never regret it. "Senior, are you not afraid that once you taste the wine today, You will never taste it again in the future? Yang Chen's smile became more and more happy. Chapter 485. The wine immortal thought that what Yang Chen said was that once he lost, he would lose something. He was sneering in his heart. Yang Chen really didn't understand the wine. He could taste the wine that was more delicious than Qingyun Immortal School. How could it be compared with a thing? After hearing Yang Chen's words, the wine immortal was stunned and looked at Yang Chen. He suddenly had a feeling of a confidant. People who love wine are afraid of not being able to drink good wine. As Yang Chen said, once you taste the delicious food today, but you can't taste it again in the future. What should you do? Looking at Yang Chen's confident appearance, it seemed that he had nothing to fear. For a while, the wine immortal suddenly had some gains and losses. But soon the wine immortal understood that he almost fell into the trap of Yang Chen. If Yang Chen could come up with a more delicious wine than Qingyun Immortal School, would he still need to line up here? Understanding this, the wine immortal shook his head directly and sneered, "That's a matter in the future. Today, the old man is really waiting to taste your wine. Little Shui, go find some water." Yang Chen didn't say anything more at the moment, and directly told Sun Qingxue. Sun Qingxue was anxious, thinking about how to resolve the discord between Yang Chen and the wine immortal. After listening to Yang Chen's words, she couldn't help but hesitate. Once Yang Chen couldn't come up with it, wouldn't it be very difficult? She couldn't help but anxiously called, "Big brother Yang. I didn't lie to you, did I?" Yang Chen smiled softly and seemed to know what Sun Qingxue was anxious about. Hearing this sentence that Yang Chen had said several times to reassure himself, Sun Qingxue didn't know why, but she suddenly felt at ease. When Yang Chen said this, his confident appearance made Sun Qingxue feel as if she had returned to the execution ground where her whole family was beheaded, or to the small courtyard where her master was entangled by the blood demon vine. At this point, Sun Qingxue no longer had any doubts and directly rushed into the restaurant. It was not a big problem for the disciples of Blue Cloud sect to go in and ask for a cup of water. Not long after, he came out with a large basin of water. The waiter of the restaurant was also clever. He had already heard the movement here. He did not hesitate to move a table out with a set of chairs and sent it to the front of Senior Ju Xian. The wine immortal was not polite, and directly sat on the chair and waited quietly. Sun Qingxue put a big basin of water on the table and walked behind Yang Chen. Yang Chen didn't talk much nonsense and sat opposite Ju Xian at the table. From the Qiankuan bag, Yang Chen took out a large jade wine cup, almost 3 taels. Later, Yang Chen thought about it and seemed to feel that it was a pity. He took the wine cup back and replaced it with a small cup of 2 qian and put it on the table. At the same time, he took out a 1-jin wine pot and put it next to him. This action was very obvious, and the meaning expressed was also very clear. He was reluctant to use a big cup for Jiu Xian to drink, so he only used a small cup. Seeing this, even Jiu Xian was looking forward to it. Yang Chen cherished it like this. Could it be that he really had some good wine? Under the watchful eyes of the people, Yang Chen poured the water into the wine pot. This action made the people who saw it puzzled for a while. Was he going to drink wine or drink water? The onlookers began to talk about it. There was such a big movement here, and the other people who were originally buying and selling in the market also gathered around. Although not everyone was good at wine, a well-known predecessor of the wine country and a younger generation of the younger generation bet, it was still very interesting. After everything was done, the pot had been filled with more than half of the water. Yang Chen stood up and cupped his hands to the people around him, and loudly reminded, "Everyone, friends who are not good at drinking, please step back a few steps, so as not to make a mistake." What does this mean? He didn't drink yet and he reminded them like this? This was too looking down on people. Everyone had such a thought in their hearts, arrogant. Did he really think that the smell of wine could make people drunk? No one moved. Yang Chen didn't care. Anyway, he had already said it. If others didn't listen, it was not his business. At most, someone would be intoxicated by the smell of wine and be drunk on the ground. It was not a big deal to sleep. Jiu Xian has been tempted by Yang Chen's move. The more Yang Chen was like this, the more it showed that there was something in his hand. The smell of wine could make people drunk. What kind of strong wine was this? Before waiting for Yang Chen to take out the wine, Jiu Xian had already begun to fidget, and there was no image of a senior. In the midst of everyone's expectations, in the hands of Yang Chen, no one knew when there was a blue-yellow gourd. Yang Chen held the waist of the gourd, opened the lid of the gourd, and carefully began to tilt slowly over the top of the pot. A drop of viscous liquid slowly appeared from the mouth of the gourd, and then reluctantly lingered on the buckle of the gourd for a while. It was completely separated from the gourd, and with a tinkling sound, it gently fell into the clear water of the wine pot. Immediately, Yang Chen was like holding a treasure, quickly covered the gourd and put it away. From the moment the drop of liquid appeared, everyone's eyes never left it. The strange thing was that although Yang Chen was solemn, everyone couldn't smell a trace of wine. Was this the wine that Yang Chen said? Senior Jiu Xian was also in doubt, but soon he no longer doubted Yang Chen's words. In the wine pot there was a faint smell of wine. He sat the closest and smelled it the most clearly. This smell of wine faintly drifted around, and everyone also smelled this smell. Slowly, the smell of wine became stronger and more fragrant. There were many people who liked wine here. At this moment, there was a series of sniffing sounds on the scene, one after another, which was very interesting. However, the smell of wine did not stop at all. As time went by, the smell of more and more fragrant quickly filled the entire market. There were a few shallow cultivators whose faces had begun to blush, and they were actually a little tipsy because of the smell of wine. Originally, the streets were filled with the smell of the Qingyun Immortal school. However, at this moment, regardless of whether it was the crowd's noses or minds, they were all filled with the fragrance of wine. There was no longer any mention of the Qingyun Immortal school. The performance of the wine Immortal predecessor was even worse. Although he was sitting the closest, his nose was constantly moving, as if to completely inhale this fragrant smell into the nose. If it weren't for so many people watching here, maybe Jiu Xian would have been unable to hold back and picked up the wine pot and drank a full glass. Yang Chen finally picked up the wine pot and shook it gently in his hand, letting the distiller's yeast dissolve a little more fully. With his movement, someone in the market finally fell down and fell asleep, making a burst of snoring sound. However, no one cared about this. Everyone's eyes were moving along the wine pot in Yang Chen's hand. After a while, Yang Chen grabbed the wine pot and gently poured a cup into the small cup on the table. "Senior, please." Filling the wine glass, Yang Chen rushed to the opposite wine Immortal and made a gesture of invitation. Chapter 486. Yang Chen's series of affectations had already made the appetite of the wine Immortal high. How could he still remember the bet? There was nothing else in front of him except this glass of wine. When he smelled the wine Immortal already knew that he had lost in a mess. In this world there was really such a good wine. Just the smell of the wine could make some of the shallow guys drunk. However, the wine was in front of him, smelling the smell. Where could the wine Immortal be reserved? He grabbed the small jade cup and looked at the amount that was not enough for a sip. He couldn't help but be reluctant. He put it under his nose and sniffed it for a while, enjoying the rare taste. The wine Immortal finally couldn't bear it anymore. He took the wine cup and sent it to his mouth, looked up, and poured it all into his mouth. He immediately felt the most delicious stimulation on the tip of his tongue. It was just a small amount of wine, and it was just enough to moisten his tongue. After tasting it in the mouth for a long time, the wine Immortal reluctantly swallowed it into the abdomen. A burning feeling passed directly from the mouth to the soles of the feet and rushed back to the top of the head, and then it was replaced by a cool feeling. Between the cool and the hot, the whole body's spiritual power seemed to be burning, the pores naturally opened, and a burst of wine gushed out. Then, under the control of the wine immortal, it quickly drilled back into the pores. The wine immortal senior could no longer maintain the posture of sitting upright. He closed his eyes and looked up to the sky. The kind of intoxication and enjoyment appeared in the eyes of the onlookers. The people who lined up for the wine, one by one, stuck their heads out and kept sniffing. The sound of the sniffing at the scene did not stop, as if everyone wanted to suck up all the wine smell in the air. Another cup. The wine immortal senior finally opened his eyes again and put the wine cup on the table, but he was not willing to let go. He still pinched it with 2 fingers and said to Yang Chen. Yang Chen was not stingy, and poured a full cup for the wine immortal, looking at the wine immortal with a smile. However, at this moment, the wine immortal had no interest in arguing with Yang Chen. This glass of wine was simply the jade nectar, which hooked all the wine worms buried deep in the body of the wine immortal. His throat seemed to have stretched out a small hand, constantly waving, wanting the wine immortal to pour this glass of wine into his mouth. After a long time of deep intoxication, the wine immortal finally took another sip of this small glass of wine into his mouth. With this action of Jiuxian, there was a sound of swallowing saliva on the scene, which directly shocked Sun Qingxue behind Yang Chen. Sun Qingxue did not expect that a single drop of Yang Chen's wine would be so delicious. When she was young, her family was well off and she drank a lot of good wine. Although he wasn't greedy for the wine in his cup, he could still tell if it was good or bad. The smell of wine made several people hungry, but Sun Qingxue was standing so close, but she was fine. Obviously, her drinking capacity was not bad. But Sun Qingxue still couldn't imagine that there would be so many people swallowing saliva at the same time. These were all the disciples of the Blue Cloud sect. Their performance made Sun Qingxue very embarrassed. In front of Big Brother Yang, couldn't they show some face for the Blue Cloud sect? However, looking at the appearance of the wine immortal, who was a Yuanying stage senior, Sun Qingxue could not blame those disciples more. Such a wine was not a delicacy that should exist in the world. After giving 2 cups to the wine immortal, Yang Chen did not intend to give it to the wine immortal anymore. He turned around and directly stuffed the wine pot into the small hand of Sun Qingxue. Little Shui, keep it. Big Brother Yang, this is too expensive. Sun Qingxue also knew the good and bad, understood the value of this pot of wine, and hurriedly refused. Oh, it's not a good thing, it's just distilled yeast. Where would Yang Chen let Sun Qingxue refuse, and directly forced it back? Take it first to satisfy your appetite, and wait for the day to let you taste the distilled yeast with a specially brewed wine, that is the best delicacy. These words made the people who listened around, including the wine immortal predecessor, all stunned. Such a good wine was actually not a good thing? But Yang Chen's words were very reasonable. The distilled yeast with water, of course, was not as good as the distilled yeast with a special wine. This was common sense. This also meant that there was another more delicious wine. The eyes of the wine immortal predecessor had already lit up, staring at Yang Chen, as if staring at a peerless treasure. However, while looking at Yang Chen, he did not forget to follow the wine pot in the hands of Sun Qingxue from the corner of his eyes. The special wine was of course wonderful, but wasn't there no such thing? At present, the only thing that could satisfy his appetite was the pot in the hands of Sun Qingxue. The wine immortal predecessor had begun to rack his brains to find a way to get the glass of wine in the hands of Sun Qingxue. Rob? As a predecessor and also a guest of the Blue Cloud sect, he could not do such a thing in the Blue Cloud sect. It seemed that there was only one way to exchange things. Senior, this wine, how does it taste compared to the Qingyun Immortal School? At this time, Yang Chen asked such a question again, and the time made the wine immortal immediately recall the kind of carefree feeling of 2 glasses of wine, and couldn't help but salivate. He wanted to shake his head and not admit it, but the wine immortal looked at the wine pot in the hands of Sun Qingxue, and he couldn't say these words. In the end, he could only nod heavily. I lost. The wine immortal was also a hoodlum, and directly threw his Qianquan bag on the table. You see what you want, take it yourself. Under his control, the mouth of the Qianquan bag had been opened, waiting for Yang Chen to choose himself. This was the bet, and under the eyes of the public, the wine immortal would never renege on it, not to mention that there was a pot of wine next to the wine immortal. This bet was taken by Yang Chen, and there was no thought of politeness. He opened the Qianquan bag directly and began to check the things inside. As a Yuanying stage predecessor, there were still a lot of good things in the Qianquan bag. However, those so-called advanced magic weapons, Yang Chen did not see any of them. Instead, a small thing that was thrown in the corner of the Qianquan bag by the wine immortal caught the attention of Yang Chen. It was a wooden sign, very irregular in shape, with some crooked text-like patterns on it. The age was already very old. If there was no trace of spiritual power to protect it, it would have already decayed into what shape? This. The wine immortal looked at Yang Chen and actually chose such a broken wooden sign. It was a little unexpected, and he couldn't help but ask, "Are you sure?" "Of course." Yang Chen replied affirmatively. "Weird." The wine immortal stared at Yang Chen strangely and said, "This is what the old man got by chance. No one knows what the patterns on it are. If you want it, you can take it." Chapter 487. For what Yang Chen chose, as long as he did not take his own life source magic weapon and several kinds of wine collected, the wine immortal really did not care about it. He only took a wooden sign. It was strange, but it also made the wine immortal feel at ease. In this way, he did not break his promise. No matter what the use of the wooden sign that Yang Chen took, the eyes of the wine immortal were tightly staring at the wine pot in the hands of Sun Qingxue. The kind of expression that he wanted was overflowing. Sun Qingxue was originally a smart person. How could she not know that Yang Chen gave her the rest of the wine, just to let her exchange some good things from the hands of the wine immortal? She opened the lid of the pot and leaned forward to sniff it gently. She suddenly shook her head and asked, "Big brother Yang, is it more delicious to melt it with wine than with water?" "That is natural." Seeing Sun Qingxue asking this question, Yang Chen knew that the clever little girl already knew what he wanted to do, and replied very cooperatively. "If that's the case, then this wine is really a pity." Sun Qingxue suddenly shook her head and pretended to fall. "Then I still don't drink this first, wait for your wine to be brewed." "Little girl, you can give it to me if you don't want it." The wine immortal saw that the wine pot was about to be poured out, and he was shocked and hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Don't pour it out." Sun Qingxue and Yang Chen sang the same tune. It would be strange if the wine immortal didn't see it. However, the taste of the wine was really memorable. With the wine immortal's alcohol capacity, the amount of 2 cups of 4 qian was just enough for him to taste the taste. The wine bug had just been aroused, and there was no wine to quench his thirst. How could he bear it? "Well, little girl, what do you want?" you say. "I will exchange this pot of wine with you." Knowing that Sun Qingxue was waiting for his game, the wine immortal still said it directly, and the character of drinking was seen at a glance. Sun Qingxue's eyes turned. Yang Chen didn't hint that there was anything good in this wine immortal. It seemed that there was nothing suitable for her in the Qianquan bag. She said, "Senior wine immortal, this junior doesn't want the things in your Qianquan bag." With this, the wine immortal was a little embarrassed. The reason why he threw the Qianquan bag to Yang Chen just now was because he knew that there weren't many good things inside. He was afraid that Yang Chen would choose something that he treasured. Fortunately, Yang Chen was easy to deal with. He solved the problem with a wooden token of unknown use. But now Sun Qingxue was not fooled by him, and the wine immortal was forced to the corner. With a red face, the wine immortal looked at Yang Chen, but found that Yang Chen was holding the wooden token and didn't pay attention to him at all. He felt a little less embarrassed. He looked down and looked around. He thought about it and looked at Sun Qingxue, who was smiling sweetly on the opposite side. The wine immortal finally took out a green branch from his arms and gritted his teeth and handed it over. "This is a piece of Chongchun wood that I got when I was walking around the world. This little girl has a wood attribute spirit root, it just comes in handy." Long spring wood was a good thing. Sun Qingxue almost immediately took it, and the smile on her face was almost blooming. The wine pot in her hand was not shameless, and she sent it directly over. Her mouth was also very respectful. "Thank you, Senior Wine Immortal." "Forget it, forget it." The Wine Immortal took the pot of wine and was about to drink, but suddenly remembered something. He took the small jade cup on the table, poured a cup, and swallowed it after smelling it for a long time. The rest of the wine was reluctant to drink, and he solemnly sealed the wine pot with a talisman and put it away. Now the Wine Immortal realized the words that Yang Chen said at the beginning. After drinking this kind of wine, and then drinking other wine, it was already bland, but if he wanted to drink again, there was not much. For a person like him who was addicted to wine, it was simply torture. "If I knew it, I wouldn't have made this bet, I wouldn't have tasted this wine, and there wouldn't be so many things. The key was that I don't have to think about this wine. Now, after drinking this pot, where can I find it?" Suddenly seeing Yang Chen, the Wine Immortal's eyes lit up. This distiller's yeast was poured out of the gourd by Yang Chen. There must be more. I can only make friends with Yang Chen in the future and ask for more. What is the name of the little brother? There was a request for people. The Wine Immortal's words were also a lot of polite, and the title was changed from a kid to a little brother. The people watching next to them couldn't help but cover their mouths and snicker. On the contrary, those who lined up to drink were all sad. If they could really drink that kind of wine again, what's the harm in calling him a little brother? Everyone pricked up their ears and wanted to know who this unfamiliar face was. "I am Yang Chen of Chunyang Palace." The other party was polite, and Yang Chen was also polite, and directly reported his origin. As soon as they heard that it was Yang Chen of Chunyang Palace, there was a sound at the scene. The name of Yang Chen was also heard by many people in Blue Cloud sect, especially after the 100,000 Mountains incident. The questioning inner heart pill was only a legend among the high level, but the thunder pomegranate was almost everyone's ears. Yang Chen used hundreds of thunder pomegranates to directly break the 7-star heavenly thunder formation in the Battle of 100,000 Mountains. Many people, even if it was for the thunder pomegranate, had to pay attention to Yang Chen. It turned out to be nephew Yang. The Wine Immortal directly began to get close to him, and called him nephew. It seemed that he should have a friendship with a certain predecessor of Chunyang Palace. "In the future, this old man will go to Chunyang Palace for a few days, and I will have to trouble nephew. On behalf of the sect, I welcome the predecessor." Yang Chen also began to talk about etiquette. The purpose of the Wine Immortal was to know the origin of Yang Chen, and he could find him later. Now that the purpose has been achieved, he didn't say anything more. After a few polite words, he returned directly to the restaurant. Others also remembered the name of Yang Chen. It was estimated that there would be many drunkards who would come to the restaurant in the future. Sun Qingxue got the eternal spring wood and was really happy. Holding the small branch, she couldn't put it down and showed off to Yang Chen. "Big brother Yang, why did you choose that wooden plate? If I knew there was such a good thing, I would have asked for more." "Hee, people should be content." Yang Chen smiled and was also happy for Sun Qingxue. Suddenly he thought of something and reminded Sun Qingxue, "If this eternal spring wood is used with immortal wood, the effect will be better." "I know." Sun Qingxue carefully put away the eternal spring wood, and then smiled sweetly at Yang Chen. "You also said that people should be content. This is already very good. Moreover, immortal wood is not so easy to get. I will not be greedy for the time being." Seeing Sun Qingxue so happy, Yang Chen didn't know why. His heart was gratified, as if Sun Qingxue was happy, and he was also happy. He couldn't help but say, "Although this immortal wood is not easy to find, little Shui, you are lucky, I just have one here." Chapter 488. Yang Chen did have an immortal wood. After the incident in the barren valley, the Taishaman sent compensation for covering up Chu Heng. At that time, Yang Chen already had the Penglai divine wood, and did not put this immortal wood in his eyes. Immortal wood and eternal spring wood both belonged to the eternal wood species, but one was dead, the other was alive, one yin and one yang, the two were used together, yin and yang. It was the best tonic for the wood spirit root cultivators. The combination of the two could almost make it easier for the wood spirit root to step into the Jedon realm. Sun Qingxue had already taken the 3 Revolutions Foundation establishment pill given by Yang Chen. The first wood spirit power already contained the aura of the Penglai divine wood. Combined with this eternal spring wood and immortal wood, it was definitely the best assistance for Sun Qingxue to condense her Dan. Hearing Yang Chen's words, Sun Qingxue almost jumped with ecstasy. Yang Chen came to her 3 times and gave her 3 surprises. The first time he saved her life, the second time he let her worship Elder Hua as a master, this time he brought her the eternal spring wood and the immortal wood. Speaking of it, Yang Chen was simply Sun Qingxue's lucky star. If there were no people watching, Sun Qingxue would want to hug Yang Chen's neck and cheer. In cultivation, opportunities were very important, but Yang Chen brought such opportunities to Sun Qingxue one after another. At this time, even if she directly fell out with Shi Shanshan, Sun Qingxue would unswervingly fight with Fairy Shi for a dual cultivation companion. Yang Chen did not know that his concern made his own troubles more serious. The little sister in his mind, at this moment, had become more and more firm. Originally, he planned to buy some raw materials for wine in the market, but unexpectedly encountered such a thing. Of course, a drop of distiller's yeast in exchange for a piece of eternal spring wood and a strange wooden sign, Yang Chen felt that it was really worth it. Others couldn't see the use of the wooden sign. How could Yang Chen not see it? It was clearly the key to a secret plane. The wine immortal actually put it there as an ordinary object for Yang Chen to choose. If he knew the truth, he would probably be so regretful that he would beat his chest and stamp his feet. This secret plane was a forbidden area similar to the Chunyang Palace secret pavilion. The pattern on it was a rare text from 10,000 years ago, and Yang Chen happened to see the introduction of this text on a piece of jade slip in the Blue Vault Mountain Immortal's cave. In the secret plane of a small sect, the sect has long disappeared, but the secret plane is still preserved, and this key has also been tossed and turned to the present, but no one knows the goods, and Yang Chen got a bargain for it. Even if it was a small sect, sometimes there would be some amazing things. What's more, in the secret plane of 10,000 years ago, even if there was nothing else, there would always be some spirit medicine that was more than 10,000 years old, right? This kind of good thing, of course, Yang Chen would not say it on the spot. This secret plane key also gave Yang Chen a goal to gain experience with Sun Qingxue. Not to mention anything else, he would first complete the instructions of the head of the palace. There were not too many twists and turns in purchasing the raw materials for the wine. With the previous performance of Yang Chen, everyone knew that Yang Chen was going to brew a special wine to melt the distiller's yeast, and they were all looking forward to it. The only trouble was that the amount Yang Chen needed was too large, and he directly emptied all the inventory of the shop in the market, which made people surprised. How much wine was Yang Chen going to brew? I'm not only brewing one kind, Yang Chen explained to Sun Qingxue. Sun Qingxue did not pursue this issue much. Just an O sound, she was still immersed in the joy of getting the eternal spring wood and the immortal wood. Compared to the huge lake of distiller's yeast, Yang Chen could not buy all the raw materials in the Blue Cloud sect. And there were many other things to consider. For example, the wine needed to use good water, which required Yang Chen to find a suitable water vein for wine brewing. Of course, these were later words, not mentioned for the time being. After taking Yang Chen around the market, Sun Qingxue and Yang Chen returned to Sun Qingxue's small courtyard. Yang Chen also gave the immortal wood that he kept to Sun Qingxue. Holding 2 rare woods, Sun Qingxue jumped in the yard excitedly. There were no outsiders here, only Brother Yang was here. Sun Qingxue was not afraid to be seen by him. What are you so happy about? A majestic voice interrupted Sun Qingxue's ecstasy, and then a figure appeared in Sun Qingxue's small courtyard. Master! When Sun Qingxue heard the voice, she was not afraid at all. After seeing the figure, she didn't think about it and rushed into the arms of the person. After acting coquettishly for a while, she asked as if she was presenting a treasure, Master, guess what I got today? Senior Hua. Yang Chen has stood up. When Elder Hua Wanting appeared, Yang Chen also had to show the etiquette of the younger generation. Hua Wanting nodded slightly at Yang Chen, but did not come over. She just looked at her apprentice and acted like a spoiled child. You used Yang Chen's wine to exchange for a piece of eternal spring wood from Jiuxian? When Sun Qingxue finished acting, Hua Wanting replied with a smile. Master, you know it all? Sun Qingxue was very dissatisfied. It was not easy to show off in front of her master. In the end, her master already knew it. This was not interesting. Things in the market can spread very fast. Hua Wanting's eyes turned to Yang Chen. My sect's Qingyun Immortal School suddenly became ordinary, it is hard not to know. Senior, I just want to coax little Shui, it is Senior Jiu Xian who won't let it go. Yang Chen could only spread his hands and pretend to be innocent. Speaking of it, he did ruin the reputation of Qingyun Immortal School. It doesn't matter, it's just wine. Hua Wanting, as a master of the Desheng stage, of course, would not take this kind of small thing to heart. She just came to see how her disciple and Yang Chen got along. Master, you must not be able to guess what else I got. Sun Qingxue on the side immediately followed up, once again letting her master guess what benefits she got. You are not satisfied with the eternal spring wood? Hua Wanting smiled and scolded. You don't want to get another immortal wood, do you? Sun Qingxue was dumbfounded on the spot and looked at her master as if she was looking at a monster. Master, how do you know that I also got an immortal wood? What? You really got an immortal wood? Hua Wanting was stunned on the spot. Sun Qingxue actually got an immortal wood? How was this possible? With the eternal spring wood and the immortal wood, with the qualifications of Sun Qingxue, the Jiedan was simply a sure thing. Even her master couldn't help but be happy for Sun Qingxue. No wonder Sun Qingxue would be so happy it turned out to be like this. It was Big Brother Yang who gave it to me. Sun Qingxue once again proudly showed Yang Chen's credit to her master. Yang Chen found that Hua Wanting's eyes looking at him had become softer and softer, as if looking at a son-in-law. Chapter 489. For Sun Qingxue, Yang Chen now regarded her as a little sister. If there was something good, he would not be stingy to give it to her. The Three Revolutions Foundation establishment pill was like this, and so was the immortal wood. However, now Yang Chen was a little hesitant. Should the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid be given to Sun Qingxue at this time? Maybe Sun Qingxue did not have this kind of insight, but Hua Wanting must know it. Once Hua Wanting saw the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid and had other ideas, Yang Chen was afraid that this kindness would do bad things instead. Sun Qingxue happily showed off what she had got to her master, but she still had to wait until Sun Qingxue was at the peak of the foundation stage to use it, which made Sun Qingxue have a little regret, and her face naturally showed it. At that moment, the girl's naive and excited expression was mixed with a little grievance, so Yang Chen suddenly had a little understanding. Sun Qingxue was grateful and simply good to him, so there was no need to guard against this and that. Even if Hua Wanting didn't know that Yang Chen had the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, she knew that Yang Chen could refine the questioning inner heart pill. Compared with the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, the latter could make Hua Wanting more tempted. Since Hua Wanting now had this attitude towards Yang Chen, there would be no difference if she did not take out the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. It was just an occasional encounter, I didn't know it beforehand. After thinking about it, Yang Chen's face also showed a smile again. A jade cup suddenly appeared in his hand, and he said to Sun Qingxue, "This is my gift to you." "What is this? Another kind of wine?" Sun Qingxue jumped over and looked at the jade cup in Yang Chen's hand, asking in surprise. However, hearing that it was a gift from Yang Chen, the smile on her face did not stop. "It doesn't matter what it is, just drink it," Yang Chen said with a smile as he brought the jade cup to Sun Qingxue. Sun Qingxue's eyes widened as she looked at the glowing purple liquid. Her eyes were filled with confusion, as if she was wondering what it was. When Hua Wanting heard that Yang Chen had a gift for Sun Qingxue, she was very happy. Hua Wanting doted on her disciple Sun Qingxue very much. She would not easily let her suffer any grievances, let alone allow her to be hurt. Although Elder Hua believed that Yang Chen would definitely not harm Sun Qingxue, he still subconsciously looked at what Yang Chen gave to Sun Qingxue. Looking over and seeing the purple liquid, Elder Hua Wanting was startled. In his memories, there didn't seem to be anything with such characteristics. It was purple, and it was even emitting waves of fluorescent light. If she explored it with her spiritual awareness, there was no spiritual power. What was this? Suddenly, the name of a thing rose from the bottom of Hua Wanting's heart, and Hua Wanting suddenly became excited. No way? Was this thing the legendary 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid? Hua Wanting couldn't help but be shocked. The 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid was too precious. Even if others had it, it would only be a few drops. How could it be packed in a big cup? Yang Chen's jade cup had almost 2 or 3 drops. With so many 4 Seas mysterious coral liquids placed there, it seemed so unreal. Ordinary people had a few drops of 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid, and all of them regarded it as a treasure. Unless it was a last resort, they would add 1 or 2 drops in the extremely important alchemy or refining process, and they would not be willing to put more. This kind of peerless treasure, drink it? What kind of a wastrel would do such a thing? Wait! Seeing that Sun Qingxue was about to pick it up and drink it, Hua Wanting couldn't help but hurriedly stop it. What a joke, this 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid. Drinking it could only clean up the garbage impurities in the body, but for people like Sun Qingxue, who had the full value of the wood spirit root, the effect was relatively small. But if these 4 Seas mysterious coral liquids were used in alchemy or refining, maybe they could refine some peerless medicinal pills or magic weapons. It was a pity to waste it like this. Master, why? Sun Qingxue turned her head and looked at her master in confusion. She never doubted that Yang Chen would harm her, but wondered why her master would do such a thing. And now Hua Wanting's expression was rare, which Sun Qingxue had never seen on her master's face. Suddenly, a thought rose in Sun Qingxue's heart. Could it be that this cup of purple liquid was something extraordinary? Yang Chen, this is too valuable, you can't accept it. Hua Wanting did not explain to Sun Qingxue, but said to Yang Chen. She didn't know how Yang Chen got these things, but no matter which sect it was in, so many 4 Seas mysterious coral liquids would definitely be regarded as a treasure. How could it be easily given away? Elder Hua still has a glimmer of hope that Yang Chen still doesn't know what this thing is and what its use is. He only thinks that it is an ordinary juice that is good for the body, so he gave it to Sun Qingxue to drink. In this case, Elder Hua could still persuade Yang Chen to take it back. It's not that Elder Hua is not tempted by this 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid. It's really that Chunyang Palace and Blue Cloud sect are at the moment of close cooperation. The long-term interests of the 100,000 mountains are more important than a few magic weapons or some medicinal pills that the 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid can achieve. Of course, if other things can be used in exchange for some 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid, the result would be more perfect. However, it must not be in the way it is now. Without Yang Chen's knowledge, it was given to Sun Qingxue as a drink. It's just some 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid, it's not a big deal. When Yang Chen opened his mouth, Hua Wanting was shocked. Not a big deal? The words used by Yang Chen simply shocked Elder Hua, a master of the Deshang stage. Is it precious? Master. Sun Qingxue really didn't know, and asked her master with doubts. It's 10,000 times more precious than you think. Hua Wanting replied without hesitation. Ah! Sun Qingxue didn't expect such a result. Such a precious thing, she couldn't dare to accept it at will. She picked up the jade cup and planned to return it to Yang Chen. Looking at Hua Wanting's performance, Yang Chen suddenly sighed in his heart. Blue Cloud sect was able to become a first-class sect. It was not a fluke. Even the temptation of the 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid, Elder Hua could refuse. Just this temperament, it was not known how many times higher than that Wan Qian. Yang Chen, don't you know the special nature of the 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid? Elder Hua looked at Yang Chen and still insisted on returning it. You should take it back. Thank you, Senior, for your care. Yang Chen was still very grateful for Hua Wanting's thoughts, but he also had his own plans, however. Does Senior think that this thing is in the hands of this younger generation junior? Can this younger generation junior keep it? Chapter 490. Indeed, once it is known that Yang Chen has the 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid, the enemies that Yang Chen has to face will never be less than 10,000. Even if Yang Chen is the enemy of thousands of people, it is impossible to fight against the entire cultivation world. Hua Wanting became more and more puzzled. In this case, why did Yang Chen show this treasure in front of her? Although he didn't speak, Elder Hua's eyes had already revealed this question. Since it can't be kept, why not use it immediately, and let others have no other thoughts? Yang Chen smiled slightly and said his reasons. Listening to this almost absurd reason, Hua Wanting really didn't know what to say. Yang Chen's words obviously meant that he knew the preciousness of the 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid, and it was precisely because of this that Yang Chen made such a decision. Elder Hua certainly didn't know that in Yang Chen's gourd there were so many of these things that he could use to bathe and swim. For a while, she couldn't find any reason to refute Yang Chen. She wanted to say that she would keep it, but this was a gift from Yang Chen to his apprentice Sun Qingxue. As an elder, how could she be greedy for the younger generation? Moreover, if this younger generation junior always relies on this 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid, I don't want to make any progress in alchemy. Yang Chen opened his mouth again, and this time the reason sounded like it. As long as this younger generation junior has the alchemy technique in hand, what difference does it make with or without these things? At this time, even Hua Wanting couldn't help but be moved by Yang Chen's arrogance. But thinking about it carefully, what Yang Chen said was very reasonable. He was still in the foundation stage, and he could already refine the questioning inner heart pill, heaven-seizing pill and black tiger yuan-raising pill. If he always relied on foreign objects, it was indeed as Yang Chen said. His alchemy technique was likely to stop moving forward. Yang Chen could distinguish what was fundamental, so he would make such a decision. Hua Wanting couldn't help but envy Yang Chen's master. With such an excellent disciple, how could the sect not prosper? Fortunately, the gift that Yang Chen gave was for his disciple. After Sun Qingxue drank it, it was indeed a great benefit for her. There was no doubt about this. The excellence of the disciple was the glory of the master. Elder Hua also understood this and finally didn't stop him. He nodded at Sun Qingxue, signaling her to drink it according to Yang Chen's instructions. Originally, Elder Hua wanted to keep some for the sect's needs, but seeing that Yang Chen didn't seem to be holding back, she couldn't do that. Anyway, in the end, Sun Qingxue still benefited from it. It was an indirect benefit to himself and the sect. Elder Hua comforted himself and then watched Sun Qingxue drink the cup of 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid. There is no taste. After drinking, Sun Qingxue mischievously said another sentence, so that Hua Wanting really didn't know what to say. Soon, the medicinal power of the 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid took effect. Sun Qingxue only felt that her eyes were blurred. She only muttered a sentence, so sleepy, and fell into the arms of her master. Hua Wanting was already prepared, and quickly took Sun Qingxue out. The figure flashed, and was no longer in the room, leaving only a lingering sentence. Yang Chen, you rest here, I will look for you after little Shui wakes up. With Hua Wanting watching, Sun Qingxue would certainly not have any problems. Yang Chen was very relieved. In Sun Qingxue's room, Yang Chen rested leisurely for a few days. He did not go out every day. He only cultivated the 3 purities secret art and the yin-yang 5 elements secret art and the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. The rest of the time, he took the jade slips and looked at them one by one, very regular. Although the name of the wine has been spread in the Blue Cloud sect, no one has come to disturb Yang Chen. It must be that Elder Hua has already ordered it. Yang Chen was also happy and leisurely, reading books and cultivating. During this period, Elder Hua Wanting also came twice. Her courtyard was next to Sun Qingxue's courtyard. The master and apprentice were next to each other, and it was also convenient for Sun Qingxue to ask for advice. In fact, Elder Hua did not come over and knew what Yang Chen was doing. Elder Hua was just a little emotional. Young people like Yang Chen who could be calm were rare even among the outstanding disciples of the Blue Cloud sect. At least Hua Wanting herself could not give away the cup of 4 C's mysterious coral liquid like Yang Chen casually, and it was still given to people who had nothing to do with her sect, which was even more rare. The only explanation was that Yang Chen cared about Sun Qingxue. Anyway, Sun Qingxue had already expressed the intention to become a Dao companion to Yang Chen before, and Yang Chen said that he would consider it. However, such a large cup of 4 C's mysterious coral liquid seemed to have explained Yang Chen's attitude. For Sun Qingxue's own choice of Dao companion, Elder Hua was more and more satisfied. Yang Chen not only saved Hua Wanting's life, but he was also so calm at such a young age. His alchemy skills were almost the best in the world, his future was boundless, and he was so attentive to Sun Qingxue. It seemed that Little Snow's vision was quite good. If Yang Chen knew that he was just going to give a small gift to Sun Qingxue and was associated with so many things, he would definitely regret giving this to Sun Qingxue in front of Hua Wanting. It was not that he was reluctant to give the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. The key was that Yang Chen was afraid of misunderstanding. If he knew it, he would have secretly given it to Sun Qingxue, no one would know, and there would not be so many things. This large cup of 4 C's mysterious coral liquid was drunk, and Sun Qingxue slept for 10 days. Naturally, a lot of impurities were also discharged from her body. With Hua Wanting taking care of her at all times, there would be no problems in any aspect. When Sun Qingxue appeared in front of Yang Chen again, she already had a different expression. Hua Wanting had already explained to Sun Qingxue what the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid was and how precious it was. In the face of Yang Chen, Sun Qingxue was not ordinary gratitude. "Thank you, big brother Yang." This thank you, Sun Qingxue, was absolutely from the heart. In the same way, it was also mixed with unusual joy. The 4 C's mysterious coral liquid Yang Chen was willing to give it to her, indicating that she had a position in his heart. Sun Qingxue did not ask for anything, these were enough. "You are welcome. You look good." Yang Chen stared at Sun Qingxue up and down and nodded with satisfaction. After the removal of impurities, Sun Qingxue's skin was more white, full of vitality, and looked younger. Sun Qingxue's thanks, Yang Chen would not take it to heart. "It seems that the auction of Blue Cloud sect is about to start soon, right?" Yang Chen saw that Sun Qingxue was a little shy, and naturally changed the topic. "Is it time to take me to see it?" "The auction will start tomorrow, it has been prepared for a long time," Sun Qingxue said, took out a piece of jade slip and handed it to Yang Chen. "This is the thing to be auctioned tomorrow, big brother Yang, you see, what do you want, I will buy it for you." Chapter 491. The internal auction of the sect was very formal. The list of auction items was prepared in advance. so that the people in the sect could be prepared in advance. It was very thoughtful. Sun Qingxue came back and did not mean to leave again. This was her room, her courtyard. Seeing Sun Qingxue looking forward to looking at himself, Yang Chen used his spiritual awareness to explore the jade slip and began to look at it. Originally, Yang Chen did not have any specific goal, but after a rough scan, he found that among the things auctioned this time, there were good things that made him tempted. Polar True Fire. This auction turned out to have Polar True Fire. This was a 5th grade fire seed on the same level as the Sun True Fire, Lunar True Fire, and Nanmingli Fire. Yang Chen now had the True Sun Fire and the Nanmingli Fire, 2 5th grade 3rd grade fires, but only the Lunar True Fire, a 5th grade 4th grade fire, plus the Polar True Fire, a 5th grade 4th grade fire, was just in harmony with yin and yang. If it was his previous life, Yang Chen had the Sun True Fire, he would definitely not dare to hope for more. But this life was different. Since Yang Chen wanted the yin-yang heaven-burning fire, he needed a lot of fire seeds. 5th grade and higher fire seeds were rare. It was not easy to encounter them, so Yang Chen must get them. There were no special surprises, but there was still a spirit spring that made Yang Chen very tempted. This was a spirit spring collected from the root. The water was clear and it was a good water for cooling during alchemy or refining. However, Yang Chen was not tempted to use it during alchemy or refining, but he felt that if the water quality was good, it could be used to make wine. If people knew about Yang Chen's plans, he didn't know how many people would knock him to the ground and then step on him fiercely and reprimand him. Although the spirit spring was not a rare thing, it was a bit of a waste to use it to make wine, right? Of course, everyone couldn't imagine how much wine Yang Chen needed to dilute the tens of thousands of years old distiller's yeast in the lake. A spirit spring might not be enough. With these 2 items, it was enough for Yang Chen to sell at the auction. Looking at the others, they were all good materials and refined magic treasures and pills. Yang Chen was not interested in them. There were a few cultivation techniques that looked good, but when he thought about it, it might be a little inappropriate to buy these cultivation techniques from Blue Cloud Sect's auction, so he gave up on the idea. Brother Yang, do you need anything? Sun Qingxue had been waiting for Yang Chen's decision. Seeing that Yang Chen had put down the jade slip, she hurriedly asked. Yes. Yang Chen smiled and nodded. It seemed that his luck was good. He could even catch up with a good thing like the Earth Pole True Fire. It was indeed a stroke of luck. However, this kind of 5th grade flame, the Blue Cloud Sect actually took it out at the auction instead of exchanging for it with the sect's contribution points. This could only mean one thing. The Blue Cloud Sect was rich and overbearing, or the owner of the flame was really short of spirit stones. If he handed it over to the sect, although he would get the sect's contribution points, he would lose some spirit stones. In any case, since Yang Chen had seen it, he had to compete with others. Brother Yang, what do you want? I'll buy it for you. When Sun Qingxue heard that there was something that Yang Chen wanted, she was very happy and immediately clamored to buy it for Yang Chen. You! Yang Chen looked up and down at Sun Qingxue, then asked curiously, how many spirit stones do you have? Is it enough to buy? I can borrow some spirit stones from my master first. Sun Qingxue was a little guilty under Yang Chen's gaze. As a disciple of the foundation stage, although her master was a Deshang stage elder, she did not have much savings. If she wanted to buy things at this level of auction, she still had some foundation. Forget it, your brother Yang is a rich man. Yang Chen reached out and stroked Sun Qingxue's little head gently. It was a very intimate action. Sun Qingxue also seemed to enjoy it and did not dodge. Then what do you want? Sun Qingxue still asked curiously. Don't I want to make wine? Yang Chen said with a smile. There is a vein of spirit spring here, it should be good to use to make wine. I'll look at the water quality and buy it if it's suitable. Although there was an introduction on the jade slip, it was impossible to judge without seeing the real thing. Some spirit spring water quality was good for refining, some were for alchemy, but usually most were very good drinking water. Of course, there were exceptions, and Yang Chen was afraid of encountering such exceptions. Good. Good. Sun Qingxue especially hoped that there was something that Yang Chen needed in the sect. As for whether it was expensive or not, that was another matter. Anyway, for an alchemist at the level of Yang Chen, there was no shortage of spirit stones. He could drink the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid as a drink. He would never be a person who was short of spirit stones. Now Sun Qingxue has regarded herself as Yang Chen's person, and she was not polite to Yang Chen. If she could buy it, she would buy it. If she couldn't afford it, there was no difference if Yang Chen bought it. The auction was on the second day. Early in the morning, Sun Qingxue took Yang Chen to the auction venue. To be honest, for this level of auction, Sun Qingxue had only followed her master a few times. She herself was not eligible to participate. It was not that her identity was not enough, but that her family was not enough. It seemed that the auction was very popular. When Sun Qingxue and Yang Chen arrived, many people had already arrived. At the entrance of the auction house, several disciples on duty were checking the identity of the visitors one by one. There was no way around it. The sect was big, and there were tens of thousands of disciples. It was impossible to know all of them. They could only be tested by the identity card. Unsurprisingly, Sun Qingxue and Yang Chen were stopped by 2 young disciples on duty at the door. "I'm sorry, this is the sect's auction. Unrelated people are not allowed to enter." Both of them did not care. Sun Qingxue quickly took out her sect identity card and showed it to the disciple on duty. "Junior sister, this is a high-level auction. Disciples in the foundation establishment stage are not allowed to enter." The disciple on duty just glanced at Sun Qingxue's identity card and immediately knew her identity, but still stopped Sun Qingxue. "What?" Sun Qingxue was shocked. When did it change to a high-level auction? How could they not allow people to enter? However, Sun Qingxue immediately thought of an idea. She stretched out her hand and pulled Yang Chen. "This is the sect's distinguished guest and has the right to participate in the auction. I'm just going in to take a look. Is that okay?" From the moment they arrived, Yang Chen felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. When Sun Qingxue pulled Yang Chen immediately felt that there were several unfriendly gazes directed at them. It seemed that it was not a problem of the advanced auction at all. Sun Qingxue's intimacy with him was the real culprit. The sect's distinguished guest? The disciple on duty was polite. He had a smile on his face, but he still insisted on his duty. "Please show us the sect's VIP identity card." Chapter 492. The sect would issue a token of identity to some distinguished guests and guests. The Blue Cloud sect was too big. Even the people in the sect could not recognize each other, so it was normal that outsiders could not recognize each other. Therefore, this VIP token was indeed true. However, Yang Chen was embarrassed at this moment. When he was discussing the conditions with the Blue Cloud sect master, everyone was concerned about the safety of Hua Wanting, but no one remembered this. They only verbally allowed Yang Chen to participate in the auction, but this VIP token was never given to Yang Chen. Later, although Yang Chen came to visit again, he directly invited Hua Wanting and Elder Hua to take action, so he also did not have the opportunity to get the VIP token. At this moment, the disciple on duty stretched out his hand with a smile, but Yang Chen could not take it out. Of course, Yang Chen could not say that the master of the Blue Cloud sect did not give it, so he could only use such an excuse to evade. "It seems that I forgot to bring it." However, everyone was a cultivator, and almost all of their belongings were kept in the Qiankuan bag. This excuse was too lame. Even Yang Chen felt a little embarrassed. Looking at Yang Chen's embarrassed look, the disciple on duty seemed to have a look of success in his eyes. At the same time, there was a burst of laughter around, and then a voice came out, "Can't take out the token? What VIP of the sect are you pretending?" As soon as this voice came out, there was immediately a burst of laughter. It seemed that the people around had begun to watch the show, and a few people with ulterior motives began to add fuel to the fire. Sun Qingshue's face immediately became abnormally ugly. Among the voices, there were a few that she was very familiar with. It was clear that they were the people who often wanted to get close to her. Sun Qingxue had always been displeased with them, and she did not expect them to make trouble at this time. Especially in front of Yang Chen, making such a big embarrassment, Sun Qingxue was so anxious that she almost cried. These people were not watching, they were clearly taking the opportunity to humiliate Yang Chen. And the root cause was herself. However, the reason he chose was very reasonable. Only those above the gold core realm could enter the high-level auction. Sun Qingxue did not have anyone to bring her, so she was not qualified to enter. On the other hand, Yang Chen, the so-called VIP, did not have an identity token. Therefore, it was perfectly justifiable for him to reject the invitation. Even if the sect leader of Blue Cloud's sect were to come over, he would not be able to reprimand him. He did not know who leaked the news that Yang Chen did not have an identity token, but it was clear that this arrangement was indeed flawless. Moreover, in front of so many people, it was true that Yang Chen and Sun Qingshue's faces were completely swept away. Yang Chen entered the auction to buy things. He could only go in to look and not make a move. Why would Yang Chen still go in? He thought that this was an opportunity, but he didn't expect to encounter such trouble. It seemed that this time, he could only return empty-handed. Since the rules are like this, then we won't go in. Yang Chen was open-minded. A kindling of earth pole true fire was really not worthy of Yang Chen's humility. Since they were not allowed to go in, then they would not go in. This was Sun Qingshue's sect, and Chunyang Palace and Blue Cloud's sect had recently cooperated closely, so Yang Chen could not go too far. Sun Qingxue was so angry that her almond-shaped eyes were wide open, and she bit her lips tightly. If it were not for the fact that the disciples of the sect forbade internal fighting, she might have already made a move. She had also heard the meaning of Yang Chen's initial intention to settle things peacefully. She turned around and lowered her head to Yang Chen and said, "Brother Yang, let's go. Master will definitely take us in." Immediately, a Jedon stage master who was qualified to enter the auction house came over and said to Sun Qingxue and Yang Chen with a smile, "Junior sister Sun, don't bother Elder Hua. How about I take you in? Your friend can also go in and have a look, but you can't just buy anything. I don't want to trouble you." Yang Chen didn't want to make things look bad for everyone, so he refused directly. Wait a minute. The guy who spoke didn't expect Yang Chen to have such a reaction. He thought that Yang Chen had to enter this auction, but now that he turned around and left, wouldn't there be a lot of fun to watch? Do you have anything else? Yang Chen looked at the other party's performance calmly. He was slightly angry in his heart. He had given enough face to the Blue Cloud sect, but the other party was still so unforgiving. If it went too far, don't blame Yang Chen for being rude. Are you a disciple of Chunyang Palace? The disciple of Blue Cloud sect said Yang Chen's origin as soon as he opened his mouth, but he still pretended to ask. Then, without waiting for Yang Chen to answer, he immediately continued, "Chunyang Palace doesn't usually have an auction of this scale. Are you sure you don't want to go in and broaden your horizons?" As soon as this was said, there was another burst of laughter around, and at the same time, there were a few people deliberately clamoring. "It's a good opportunity. You should go in and have a look. There aren't many opportunities to broaden your horizons like this. Don't miss it, fellow Taoist." A series of voices came one after another, all of which were a group of people who seemed to be in the early Jedon stage and the late Foundation establishment stage. As for the disciple on duty, he had been staring at this side with a look and a smile, without saying a word. "Broaden your horizons? Do you look down on my Chunyang Palace so much?" Yang Chen's voice also carried a little anger. This was no longer a provocation to himself, but a disrespect to Chunyang Palace. Yang Chen's eyes stared at the other party's eyes and suddenly asked, "Is this your own intention, or the intention of the Blue Cloud sect?" Yang Chen's question made all the people shut their mouth. If this question was not answered well, it would be big trouble. Although Chunyang Palace was a second-rate sect, it was now cooperating with the Blue Cloud sect and the Green Jade Immortal Island. Not to mention being disrespectful to their allies, even without this cooperative relationship, Chunyang Palace was not so easy to be needed. Chunyang Palace, there is really no auction of this scale. The Jedon stage master smiled, but he didn't admit his mistake. I have good intentions, fellow Taoist should not misunderstand. If you don't want to, then please go back. If that's the case, then I have to see your sex auction. The other party persuaded Yang Chen to go back, but Yang Chen didn't plan to leave. Fellow Taoist is going to go in with me? The Jedon stage master was a little surprised, but wasn't this the outcome he wanted? So he immediately asked with a smile. I won't bother fellow Taoist. Yang Chen sneered. I have my own way. TSK. Isn't it still relying on the identity of Elder Hua? In the crowd next to him, there was immediately a voice of doubt, and it suddenly caused a burst of laughter. Sect Master Lu, what you promised, does it still count? Yang Chen stood in the same place and suddenly opened his mouth. The huge voice was like a golden bell, spreading far away. Chapter 493. Yang Chen's voice, but with the power of the golden bell. His voice was strengthened by the golden bell that could barely be used, and spread out. A formless sound wave, carrying with it an unparalleled aura, frantically flew out in all directions. Within 100 miles, suddenly there was a low but clear voice, clearly passed into the ears of everyone. No one thought that Yang Chen did not make a move, nor did he let Sun Qingxue invite Elder Hua wanting, but directly asked Sect Master Lu Zhenyu of the Blue Cloud sect. If it was just shouting a few times in the same place, then it would be fine. At most, it would be a disturbance here, and then it would be stopped by the senior disciples guarding the auction house. Maybe it would be a good show to watch. But now, Yang Chen actually directly called out the name of Sect Master Lu, and asked if what he said was true, and even with such a big momentum, even if there was a master to stop it now, it was too late. The auction house was originally inside the sect, and here, it was at most a few dozen miles away from the sect master. Yang Chen's voice could definitely be heard by the sect master. Who is so bold? Dare to be presumptuous in the Blue Cloud sect? Yang Chen's voice had not yet landed, and immediately there was a majestic voice. In front of everyone's eyes, the figure of a young woman had appeared at the entrance of the auction house, with an overwhelming pressure, appeared in the sight of everyone. Boom, that formless pressure directly acted on everyone at the entrance. In an instant, whether it was the only accepted disciples or the guys who were watching the excitement outside, all of them fell to the ground, and there was no possibility of resistance at all. Sun Qingxue, who was next to Yang Chen, did the same thing. The woman who appeared was really too strong, she was definitely a master of the Deshang stage, and the momentum alone had made everyone unable to bear it. The only exception was Yang Chen, who was still standing in the same place, standing straight. There was a relaxed look on his face, as if he had done something trivial. Greetings, Master Uncle. Greetings, Martial Uncle. Greetings, Martial Granduncle. A series of voices rang out, all of which were greetings. The aura that could make people kneel was immediately reduced by more than half. However, there was still a lingering aura that made people tremble with fear. Before the woman spoke, no one dared to get up. The woman's gaze naturally landed on Yang Chen. At this moment, Yang Chen calmly cupped his hands and saluted the woman. Greetings, Senior. The person who came was an acquaintance that Yang Chen had seen before, the master of the Blue Cloud sect, Shi Yanhe. Elder Shi was also one of the people who participated in the extermination of the backer of the 100,000 mountains and had met Yang Chen once. Who would have thought that Elder Shi would be here today? Shi Yanhe seemed to be very surprised that Yang Chen did not care about her Deshang stage pressure. But on this occasion, she couldn't ask anything more. She just nodded to Yang Chen as a greeting. However, Shi Yanhe immediately discovered that the voice just now was very familiar. It was the guy who shouted. She couldn't help but frown and asked, "Yang Chen, did you just shout here?" In fact, not only Shi Yanhe, but those who were watching the excitement and planned to plot against Sun Qingxue and Yang Chen, which one of them didn't know the identity of Yang Chen? The reputation of gambling with Jiu Xian in the market a few days ago has long been spread throughout the Blue Cloud sect. Those people didn't mention the name of Yang Chen at all. They were afraid that if there was any responsibility, they could also say that they didn't know the identity of Yang Chen. Of course, the agreement between Yang Chen and the Blue Cloud sect at the beginning was clear to the high-level people, but some ordinary disciples did not understand so much. Deliberately saying that Yang Chen did not have an identity token, there were also some people who did not know, but the person who came up with this method absolutely knew. Exactly. Yang Chen did not deny it, and it was impossible to deny it, and simply admitted it. Today's auction of my sect has neglected the distinguished guest. It was okay if Shi Yanhe didn't open her mouth. When she opened her mouth, many people who had just surrounded here were shocked. Even Shi Yanhe called Yang Chen a distinguished guest, then wouldn't it be a big trouble for them to laugh so much? Several guys kneeling on the ground had begun to tremble slightly. Shi Yanhe was polite, and Yang Chen did not attack. He just smiled slightly and then said, "This younger generation junior just wants to ask in person what sect Master Lu said in the past, what she promised, does it still count?" What the sect master said, what he promised, of course it counts. Shi Yanhe did not even wait for the sect master to come forward, and directly gave an affirmative answer. After answering Yang Chen, Elder Shi seemed to remember the sect disciples who were kneeling on the ground, and shouted at everyone, "All of you, get up!" Her voice was not loud, but it was still very clear to everyone's ears. With Shi Yanhe's words, the remaining power on her body also disappeared without a trace. The pressure on everyone was relieved, and only then did they dare to stand up obediently. However, after standing up, they all stood still in a well-behaved manner, not daring to breathe loudly. "Count?" Yang Chen suddenly chuckled. "I don't think so, right? What's going on?" Hearing Yang Chen's words, Shi Yanhe immediately lost her composure. Yang Chen actually questioned the promise of the Blue Cloud sect's sect master. This was simply a big joke. But she did not know what happened, and immediately shouted and asked angrily. Although Shi Yanhe was sitting in the auction house, she was not always paying attention to the movements around her. The people who dared to make trouble inside the Blue Cloud sect had not appeared yet. Most of the time, Elder Shi was still immersed in her own cultivation, and only came out when something happened. At the moment, she was alarmed by Yang Chen's shout, so she appeared, and did not know what had just happened. Now that Elder Shi Yanhe shouted so angrily, which disciples still dared to stand up and speak? All of them wished that they could shrink their bodies into the most hidden corner and be silent. And the few people who had just provoked the trouble, their bodies were already like sifting chaff, shaking non-stop. Everyone could not help but be afraid. In addition to being an elder of the Deshang stage, Elder Shi also had another identity, which was the sect's law enforcement hall master. All the disciples' mistakes were punished by Elder Shi. Among the disciples, which one of them could not help but shrink their heads when they heard the name of Elder Shi. With such strength, those people dared to face the already angry Elder Shi. "Little Shui, you speak." Shi Yanhe didn't even have to look to know that it must be these people who caused trouble. No one spoke, and no one spoke. Chapter 494. Sun Qingxue was also oppressed by Elder Shi's momentum and didn't dare to move just now. There was no way around it, there was a huge difference in the level. She did not ignore the pressure like Yang Chen, and now she did not become the famous dancing snow fairy. In front of the law enforcement hall Master Eldersher, she also looked like a frightened disciple. Eldersher called Sun Qingxue to speak, and Sun Qingxue did not dare to neglect, and obediently told the details of the small conflict. Even how the disciples provoked at the beginning, when Yang Chen was about to leave, everyone provoked again, and so on. Of course, after all, Sun Qingxue was still a disciple of Blue Cloud sect. She only described the behavior of the Jedon stage master who jumped out. As for the guys around, she didn't say much, just a sentence. Yang Chen, is little Shue's words true? Shi Yanhe waited for Sun Qingxue to finish and asked immediately. True. Yang Chen certainly wouldn't tear down Sun Qingxue's stage and nodded. Lu Shichang, is little Shue's words true? Yang Chen nodded, and Shi Yanhe immediately turned to the Jedon stage master, who had just come out, and asked in a deep voice. True. The Jedon stage master was Lu Shichang. In front of Elder Shi, where did he dare to play the slightest trick, and honestly nodded to admit it. When he said this, his face was already deathly pale, and his body was trembling non-stop. He was on the verge of collapsing, and it looked like he was about to fall. According to the rules of the sex auction house, you didn't bring your identity token today, so it's not a problem to stop you. Shi Yanhe also began to have some entanglements, and this matter was indeed a bit of a headache. The disciples on duty in the sex auction house acted according to the rules, and it was obviously not their fault. Yang Chen didn't have an identity token, so naturally he couldn't go in. If Shi Yanhe was present at the time, it was estimated that she would also make the same decision. However, Shi Yanhe knew that Yang Chen had the qualifications to participate in the auction house. At the end of the day, it was Yang Chen's fault for not bringing his identity token. However, Yang Chen was not a member of Blue Cloud sect, so it would not be appropriate for him to scold him. In Shi Yanhe's eyes, Lu Shichang was indeed wrong. He shouldn't have said anything about Chunyang Palace. As for other things, Elder Shi did not think that the disciples of the sect were wrong. Now was the time for Blue Cloud sect and Chunyang Palace to cooperate, and Yang Chen had the ability to refine the questioning inner heart pill, but he could not cover up the disciples too much. Lu Shichang's words were inappropriate. He shouldn't have apologized to you. Shi Yanhe immediately made a decision. However, Yang Chen, it's against the rules for you not to bring your identity token. You still can't participate in this auction. I'm not sure about the rules of your sect. Yang Chen listened to Shi Yanhe's words. He smiled slightly and said, Sect Master Lu promised this younger generation junior to participate in the auction, but he never gave this younger generation junior any token. In this way, if there is no problem with the rules of your sect, then maybe. Behind him, Yang Chen dragged his tone, but he didn't say anything more. But everyone present understood that his next words must be that Sect Master Lu's words were not valid, and the promise was invalid. Shi Yanhe was shocked. She never thought that the sect master promised Yang Chen, but did not give him an identity token. At that time, Shi Yanhe could probably guess a few things. In her heart, she understood that this must have been a mistake. This was mostly due to Elder Wan Qian. She had already decided to kill Yang Chen. How could she be so thoughtful for Yang Chen? The book collection was collected by Elder Wan Qian. This identity token should have been given to Yang Chen, but since she had the intention to kill, there was no need to do so. Later, Wan Qian disappeared. Sect Master Lu, of course, would not pay much attention to such a small matter, and it evolved into the present scene. Either the rules were wrong, or the sect master was a villain who did not keep his word. Choosing one of the two, it was difficult for anyone. Yang Chen was not a person of Blue Cloud sect. He did not understand the internal rules of Blue Cloud sect, which was excusable. And no matter how many rules you set, what you promised me, no one has implemented it. In the eyes of outsiders, if this is not a promise, then what is it? He took the benefits and promised the conditions of others. Now he took his own rules and did not honor them. What else can people say? That may be a mistake in a hurry, it is also possible. Yang Chen did not let Elder Shi's embarrassment continue for a long time. He immediately added the following words and let Shi Yanhe have a dignified way out. It must be the person in charge of the affairs who made a mistake in a hurry. I will supervise carefully. I will give you an explanation for this matter. With Yang Chen's way out, Shi Yanhe immediately slipped down the pole. But at this moment, Shi Yanhe still wants to maintain the face and reputation of the sect master. It can only be the mistake of the person in charge of the affairs, not the mistake of the sect master. Senior, what sect master Lu promised, is it still counted? Yang Chen immediately asked another question, but he had to chase the qualification of the auction. Can this junior still enter the auction house and participate in this auction? What I said, what I promised, of course it counts. Suddenly there was a voice coming from the side. It was Sect Master Lu Zhenyu of Blue Cloud Sect. No one knew when she had appeared here. Greetings, Sect Master. All the ordinary disciples bowed again. Only Shi Yanhe and Yang Chen were left standing to salute. Shi Yanhe was the sect master's senior sister. There was no need to bow. And Yang Chen was a guest. Although his seniority was small, he did not have to bow. All the disciples here, except Sun Qingshu and Lu Shichang, all go to the law enforcement hall to receive 100 lashes and face the wall for half a year. When Sect Master Lu came, he immediately said nothing and directly announced the punishment of the people present. Lu Shichang, you receive 500 lashes, you are not allowed to receive a monthly salary for 5 years, and face the wall for 10 years. All the disciples, including the disciples who were on duty at the auction house, were included. It seems that Sect Master Lu has already understood the ins and outs of the matter, and even the small means of temporarily adjusting the level of the auction has already been understood. Those who participated in this matter, where did they dare to say half a word, all obediently accepted the punishment. Yang Chen, since I promised you that you can participate in my sect's auction, you can naturally participate. Sect Master Lu then turned to Yang Chen. From now on, Chunyang Palace Yang Chen comes to my sect to participate in the auction, without an identity token, come and go. The latter sentence was 100 miles away, and the question of Yang Chen just now had the same effect, so that everyone heard the sect master's decision. This voice caused countless people to turn pale with fright. For Yang Chen alone, the sect master specially changed the rules of the auction, and only set up a new rule for him. Yang Chen's position in everyone's mind suddenly went up countless steps. As for those who had just participated in teasing and ridiculing Yang Chen, their faces were even more ashen. If they knew this, they wouldn't have done such a stupid thing at that time. Chapter 495. This time, even Sect Master Lu was alarmed, which really made many people drop their eyes. Yang Chen was in full view of the public, with Sun Qingshu swaggering into the auction house, accompanied by the host of the auction house. The matter finally ended with a group of disciples being punished and Yang Chen entering the auction house. But the follow-up things did not end here. Along with the sect master, there were several elders, including Sun Qingshu's master Hua Wanting. Although she was a master of the Deshang stage, but the sect master came forward, she did not intervene. This matter was originally the fault of the Blue Cloud sect. At that time, no one thought that everyone was busy taking care of Hua Wanting, busy celebrating Hua Wanting's promotion to the Deshang stage. No one gave Yang Chen an identity token. Wan Qian, who should have handled this matter, has been missing for many years. Her whereabouts were unknown, and no one could be found to take responsibility. Sect Master Lu punished a large number of people, and at the same time gave Yang Chen a special rule, which quickly calmed the dissatisfaction of all parties, and the handling was quite decent. Of course, it was mainly to calm Yang Chen's dissatisfaction. But the root of the matter was a group of male disciples headed by Lu Shichang, who admired Sun Qingxue and wanted to be Sun Qingxue's Tao companion, but Sun Qingxue did not agree, and everyone became angry out of shame. Among them, there was the shadow of Lu Shichang's master Shangguan Xian. Shangguan Xian was also a master of the Yuanying stage, and she had a close relationship with Wan Qian. At the same time, she was one of the people who knew that the sect master did not give Yang Chen an identity token at that time. This time, she also accidentally revealed this news, so that Lu Shichang thought that he had grasped Yang Chen's weakness, and he could humiliate Yang Chen in front of Sun Qingxue. Unexpectedly, Yang Chen directly alarmed sect master Lu. Lu Shichang was punished, no one said anything, it was indeed his fault first. However, sect master Lu did not seem to let go of Shangguan Xian. Junior sister Shangguan. Watching Yang Chen enter the auction house, and all the disciples went to the law enforcement hall, sect master Lu shouted, "Master!" Shangguan Xian also knew that Lu Shichang was in trouble, and it was related to her, so she didn't dare to say anything more. She respectfully called sect master and walked out. "Go and see what Yang Chen wants to buy." Sect master Lu directly said, "No matter what he buys, no matter what price, the spirit stones will be paid by you." This is the sect's apology to Yang Chen. Sect master Lu's punishment was also reasonable. Since you, Shangguan Xian, know that we have made a mistake in handling, not only did you not check the loophole for the sect, but you told your disciple, let him use this loophole to embarrass the distinguished guest. If I don't punish you, who should I punish? Shangguan Xian also knew that she had gone too far this time, so she did not dare to refuse. She agreed directly and quickly entered the auction house. The sect master only asked her to pay some spirit stones, and did not let her lose face in front of many disciples. It was already very protective of her face. Shangguan Xian did not dare to have other thoughts. Sect master, isn't this too courteous to Yang Chen? When Shangguan Xian's figure could not be seen, someone asked softly. He is just a junior in the foundation establishment stage. He is now in the late foundation establishment stage, but he can already refine the questioning inner heart pill, heaven seizing pill, and black tiger soul nourishing pill. Sect master Lu looked at the door of the auction house, and said somewhat inscrutably, "Who knows what he can refine when he is in the Jedon stage?" As soon as these words came out, everyone was silent. Others were not clear, but the strength of the questioning inner heart pill was clear. Such a genius alchemist was bound to be the target of all parties. The higher the courtesy that Blue Cloud sect gave him, the easier it was to establish a good relationship with Yang Chen. In addition, the sect and Chunyang Palace have just begun to cooperate this time, and Lu Shichang said something inappropriate. Sect Master Lu then said, "Courteous treatment of Yang Chen is also to give Chunyang Palace an explanation. After all, the cooperation will take a long time, and we can't focus on the present." Considering the overall situation, there was no reason to refute. Everyone also accepted these 2 points and nodded silently. "Sister Hua, how is the matter between Little Shui and Yang Chen?" After Sect Master Lu said this, he turned to Hua Wanting and asked, "It looks like it's very good." When she heard this, a smile appeared on Hua Wanting's face. This time, when Yang Chen came on the first day, he got a pair of everlasting spring wood and immortal wood for Little Shui. The solidifying Dan is already in the bag. And he also gave me a big fright that day. It can make Sister Hua scared. I want to hear what the fuss is about. Sure Yenha next to her heard Hua Wanting say this, and she was also curious, and asked with a smile. "Senior sister, sect master, and senior sisters and junior sisters, who among you has seen a large cup of 4C's mysterious coral liquid?" Hua Wanting looked around at the crowd, first dropped a restriction, and then asked very plainly, "How big is a cup?" Sure Yenha asked a little carelessly. "About 3 cups of wine, so a big cup." Hua Wanting also seemed to answer casually. 3 cups of wine. Sure, Yenha may not have paid much attention to what it was at first. After hearing 3 cups of wine, she instinctively repeated it, and then suddenly, like a cat that had its tail stepped on, the whole exploded. What? 3 cups of wine? 4 C's mysterious coral liquid? The people next to her have long been completely sluggish. 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, when was it used to talk about 2? Wasn't it about drops? 3, how many drops would that be? You said he has 3 or 2 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. Sure, Yenha's eyes suddenly lit up. He participated in the sex auction, just to auction the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. Even the masters of the Deshang stage were shocked by the reputation of the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. No way, this kind of rare thing, no matter when it was a good thing that could attract people. Auction? No. Hua Wanting shook her head directly, and said slowly in a tone that made people anxious to catch her and torture her. Guess what he did with those 4 C's mysterious coral liquid? Junior sister, you are sincerely hanging our appetite. How do we know how he uses those 4 C's mysterious coral liquid? Sure, Yenha's words said everyone's thoughts, including Sect Master Lu's thoughts at the moment. His alchemy is so powerful, is it because of the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid? No. Hua Wanting shook her head and said, these 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, he brought it for little Shui to drink. What? A group of masters of the Yuanying stage and Deshang stage, the sect masters and elders of the Blue Cloud sect, almost said these 2 words in unison. Everyone's eyes were wide open, and there was an incredible look in their eyes. How is it possible? I watched little Shui drink it with my own eyes. Hua Wanting also smiled bitterly. What is impossible? Chapter 496. The senior members of the Blue Cloud sect were shocked by the news of Elder Hua Wanting. What kind of prodigal son would come up with 3 or 2 of the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid as a drink? If these 4 C's mysterious coral liquids fall into the hands of the Blue Cloud sect, it would be a good thing for people to have unlimited imagination. Senior sister, you just watched the 2 young people spoil the good things? Sect Master Lu also smiled bitterly. Can't you take it on the spot? AI. Hua Wanting let out a long sigh and told her what happened at that time. Then she sighed and said, he is good to little Shui. As an elder and a master, do I have to rob a junior's things? But that is the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid after all. The elder who spoke had a face full of grief, and it seemed that she was more distressed than spoiling her good things. No. Sect Master Lu suddenly said, before coming to the Blue Cloud sect, where was Yang Chen? I heard that he went to the sea. Elder Hua Wanting's relationship with Sun Qingxue would naturally pay attention to Yang Chen and probably know that he went to the sea before. Going to the sea? That's right. Sect Master Lu nodded slightly and said, he must have found a group of Millennium Mysterious Coral, otherwise how could there be so many 4 C's mysterious coral liquids? Everyone looked like they were suddenly enlightened. This explanation was the most reasonable one. If a group of Millennium Mysterious Coral was found, it would explain why Yang Chen has so many 4 C's mysterious coral liquids, and why Yang Chen would rather give it to Sun Qingxue to drink than to use it for alchemy refining. As long as this group of Millennium Mysterious Coral is still there, Yang Chen can collect a lot of 4 C's mysterious coral liquids every other year. Of course, it is best to use it to strengthen the body at the beginning. In this way, he is still very good to little Shui. Sect Master Lu immediately came to another conclusion, and Yang Chen was not willing to let people misunderstand the conclusion. Millennium Mysterious Coral Group, Sect Master, should we? Sure, Yenha was not a good man or woman. As the law enforcement hall master, the people in the sect all changed their faces. Needless to say, it was a means to the outside world, and she immediately asked. As soon as the words came out, Hua Wanting's face changed. Everyone else was excited, waiting for the decision of the sect master. No! Sect Master Lu shook his head and said, Since he can be so good to little Shui, then we have to ask the palace master of Chunyang Palace. At that time, we can still get the 4 C's mysterious coral liquids without hurting each other. Sect Master Shui, we can of the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. Shi Yanhe still didn't understand Yang Chen's approach. If you have such a good thing, why don't you hide it and give it to the sect, but give it to an outsider? How do you know that Chunyang Palace doesn't know? Sect Master Lu then analyzed. Maybe it is through Yang Chen's hand to tell us that Chunyang Palace has a long-term cooperation with us. With the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, who knows how many magic weapons and high-level medicinal pills Chunyang Palace will have, and how many hidden powerful disciples will there be? In the future, restrain all disciples and maintain a good relationship with Chunyang Palace. Remember? Everyone nodded. No matter how powerful Yang Chen was, it was impossible for him to have all the good luck in the world. It would be strange if the sect didn't help him. The 100,000 mountains had shown that Chunyang Palace had slowly begun to show its ferocious claws and teeth and was on the road to rise. If that's the case, Shi Yanhe suddenly let out a long sigh. Pure Yang Palace is really big. Shi Yanhe couldn't help but sigh. Even the Blue Cloud sect may not have the confidence to drink so much 4 C's mysterious coral liquid as a drink. Anyway, it's out. Let's go in and see what Yang Chen wants to buy. Deciding the attitude towards Yang Chen and Chunyang Palace, Sect Master Lu looked at the sisters and suddenly proposed. No one objected. They collectively entered the auction house and occupied the largest box. They discussed this for a long time outside, but the auction had already begun inside. What did Yang Chen buy? Shi Yanhe asked when she went in. When the sect master and the elders arrived, they naturally knew what they wanted to know. Soon everyone learned from the auction house that Yang Chen had previously spent 50 jin of middle-grade spirit stones to buy a vein of spirit spring. What did he buy the spirit spring for? Alchemy? Elder Shi's first reaction was alchemy. Yang Chen's alchemy level has been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, so that people's first guess around him would be alchemy. That spirit spring is suitable for alchemy. Looking at the introduction carefully, everyone also agreed with Elder Shi's guess. If they knew that Yang Chen bought the spirit spring to make wine, they didn't know how they would behave. There were a lot of things sold at this auction, but Yang Chen seemed to not care about other auction items at all except the spirit spring. There were more than a dozen things in a row. Whether it was a magic weapon or a material, Yang Chen did not make a move. Let me listen to what this little guy wants. The auction house in the sect was almost undefended for these big shots. If they wanted to know something, there was nothing that could stop them. The words of Yang Chen and Sun Qingxue quickly reached the ears of everyone. If I buy this earth pole true fire, I can have another kind of alchemy fire, and there will be more choices for alchemy. Without any surprise, Yang Chen stopped for a while and immediately began to talk about his plan. Alchemy fire? Interesting. All the things bought are related to alchemy. It seems that this little guy is bent on alchemy. Elder Shi was still very supportive of Yang Chen's choice, and he also appreciated Yang Chen while talking. No one discovered that from the beginning of their discussion outside and now they were talking, there was such a thin spiritual awareness thread around everyone that people would not notice at all. All their words, even under the restriction of Elder Hua, passed into Yang Chen's ears without any hindrance. It seems that one of the purposes of exposing the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid has been achieved, which made Yang Chen very satisfied. In addition to giving Sun Qingxue body refining, it was to make Blue Cloud sect unable to figure out the depth of Chunyang Palace. At present, it seems that the effect was good. The strength of Chunyang Palace was not as good as Blue Cloud sect and Green Jade Immortal Island, and they could only use this way to increase some chip. Inform all the disciples of the auction house, including those guests, no one should compete. Let them give the earth pole true fire to Yang Chen. Sect Master Lu's boldness was amazing. He decided to win over Yang Chen, and almost spared no effort to support him. It is his return for giving Little Snow the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. The order of the sect master was immediately passed down. Except for Yang Chen and Sun Qingxue, everyone was soon notified. No one would disobey the sect master's meaning, even those guests were no exception. On Yang Chen's face, there was already a mysterious smile. Chapter 497. Who could have thought that Yang Chen, a junior in the foundation stage, could actually be under the eyes of a group of Deshang stage masters, rely on his spiritual awareness threads to pass through the restrictions and clearly hear the things they discussed. Of course, passing through the restrictions was a bit exaggerated. After all, Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was arranged first, and the restrictions of several masters were only on this basis, which did not prevent Yang Chen from understanding their movements clearly. Everything was based on one point: the role of the powerful spiritual awareness threads of the 3 purities' secret art. The cultivation method of the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord was really not comparable to the ordinary spiritual awareness cultivation method. Someone paid for himself, but Yang Chen couldn't do too much, otherwise, he could let Lu Shichang's master Shangguan Xian pay spirit stones. In order to give everyone an image of focusing on alchemy, when he left the auction, there were only 3 more things on Yang Chen's body. One was the spirit spring, one was the fire seed of the earth pole true fire, and the other was the last kind of alchemy material that was auctioned, which was not expensive. Even so, the 3 things before and after cost nearly 10 jin of the best quality spirit stones. There was no way around it. Even if no one competed with Yang Chen for the fire seed of the earth pole true fire, the base price was still there. That item alone had 8 jin of the best quality spirit stones, and Yang Chen's bid directly increased the base price by 1 jin, which was already very cheap. These 10 jin of the best quality spirit stones were enough to empty Shangguan Xian's pocket. Don't look at her as a Yuanying stage master of the Blue Cloud sect. After hundreds of years of accumulation, if you count spirit stones alone, it was just this net worth. When Yang Chen learned that someone had already paid the bill, the fake smile on his face made people couldn't help but want to give him a punch. They had never seen such a cheap guy. Fortunately, this time, everyone could still bear it. The spirit spring was directly collected into the gourd. The gourd was indeed powerful. The spirit spring with such a foundation was directly put in. It only showed a small pond inside, but it could flow out at any time. During the auction, every customer was given a cup of spring water for them to test to see if it was suitable for their need. Yang Chen and Gong Sunling tasted it and thought it was good, so they bought it. The fire seed of the polar true fire was not in a hurry to be absorbed, and it was not even in a hurry to be absorbed into the profound spirit furnace. Anyway, it was very safe to put it in the merit ring. Yang Chen did not want to expose his profound spirit furnace in the Blue Cloud sect. The purpose of going to the Blue Cloud sect has basically been fully achieved. Now, he just needed to give an explanation to the head of the palace and take Sun Qingxue around to gain experience. However, before he left, Yang Chen met an interesting guy. Zhu Xian took the initiative to come to the door, and without saying anything, he directly put out a wine and placed it in front of Yang Chen. "Little brother, I found a circle that matches the taste. Have a taste of these wines and see which one suits your distiller's yeast best." It had been almost 10 days, and the small pot of wine that was melted with water had already entered the stomach of Zhu Xian. After tasting that kind of wine, how could Zhu Xian still drink the so-called wine of the past? And only the taste of that small pot of wine was in his mind. Hearing Yang Chen say that it was more appropriate to use wine to melt it than to melt it with water, Zhu Xian immediately searched around. He could also find a place. In just 10 days, he found more than a dozen kinds of wine that he felt were suitable. Sure enough, he was a wine person, but it was very in line with Yang Chen's appetite. Yang Chen did not refuse, picked up these wines, poured them out one by one, and began to taste them one by one. Jiu Xian watched Yang Chen taste them and looked forward to it. The plan in his heart could even be seen by Sun Qingxue, which was to find the right wine to melt the distiller's yeast and then be able to taste the wine again. Finally, after Yang Chen tasted a circle, he picked out 2 of them. This action made Jiu Xian simply surprised and happy. If there were 2 kinds, it meant that he could have 2 flavors of wine to satisfy his craving. These 2 are barely passable, the others are not. Yang Chen did not have too much bad feeling for this predecessor who had a good gambling character. Anyway, it was sharing 2 drops of distiller's yeast. For the huge distiller's yeast of a lake, it was just a drop in the bucket. Moreover, for Jiu Xian, Yang Chen had another consideration. Jiu Xian's predecessor was a loose immortal, and from the news that Yang Chen learned in the past few days, his reputation in various sects was not bad. 5 Elements sect and Blue Cloud sect even gave him the qualifications of a guest. With such an identity, he was able to learn some of the latest news in the cultivation world, and sometimes he was even more well-informed than those who specialized in inquiring about the news. As long as Yang Chen tempted with wine, he would not worry about getting some news from Jiu Xian. Moreover, Jiu Xian was a Yuanying stage cultivator. Let him use news or some other things in exchange for wine, Jiu Xian would absolutely like it. This time, Jiu Xian learned to be good, and every kind of wine was packed in a jar, not a small wine pot. After Yang Chen chose, he directly took out 2 large wine jars. Looking at the volume of the wine jar, each jar could hold at least 40 jin. Jiu Xian took out the wine jar and looked at Yang Chen with a little embarrassment. Yang Chen did not say anything about his little thoughts. In each jar, there was still a drop of distiller's yeast. Of course, compared to the last time, this drop was a little bigger, but it was just enough to meet the needs of a jar of wine. Soon, the fragrance of the wine escaped. Jiu Xian couldn't help but squint his eyes and sniff the wine in the air, but Yang Chen had not moved, and he was not embarrassed to take the initiative to drink. Yang Chen took 2 big jade cups, both of which were 3 cups, but one was given to Sun Qingxue. The little girl's alcohol capacity was good. At that time, she was not intoxicated by the smell of wine and could also drink some. "Senior, please help yourself." Yang Chen held a wine jar and poured it for himself and Sun Qingxue respectively, and made a pleased gesture to Jiu Xian. Of course, Jiu Xian had his own guy. He immediately took out a cup, and then filled it and touched it gently with Yang Chen. Sun Qingxue, of course, would not brush away Yang Chen's face. She also picked up the wine glass and touched it with Yang Chen. The 3 were in Sun Qingxue's small courtyard, slowly savoring the wine. "It really is delicious. It's better than the last time." After Jiu Xian took a sip, his face was full of satisfaction, and he sighed again. "It's still a little worse." Yang Chen smiled and said, "When this younger generation junior brews some auxiliary wine, then I will ask the senior to taste it. Is there a better one?" Jiu Xian's eyes lit up on the spot. People who love wine, can't hear good wine, can't see good wine, and immediately began to scratch their ears and cheek. If it wasn't for Yang Chen still needing to brew, it was estimated that Jiu Xian could directly ask for it. Chapter 498. Of course, there are some key things and steps missing in the brewing process of these wines. Yang Chen nodded and explained. "The wine is already the ultimate, but the spirit wine is not enough. With my distiller's yeast, it is still a little worse." Yang Chen was not afraid to say more. The more the wine immortal listened, the more greedy he would be. Especially after he tasted these 2 big jars of wine, the result would be worse. "What else is missing?" The wine immortal was stunned, and then asked anxiously, "Can I find the spirit wine brewed by those sects?" "The secret, senior, the secret." Yang Chen stretched out a finger and shook it in front of his eyes. He smiled and said, "This is the unique skill of this younger generation junior, and it will never be easily leaked." The wine immortal was even more anxious when he heard this, but it was not good to be too tight. He could only accompany Yang Chen with a smile and asked, Little brother, when you brew it, can you let this elder brother open his eyes? A yuanying stage predecessor, like a greedy child lying in front of him, showing a smile and pleading appearance, let Sun Qingxue could no longer hold back, and burst out laughing. It's not impossible. Yang Chen also laughed out, but he was much deeper than Sun Qingxue, and he would not lose his composure on the spot. But what is the senior going to use to exchange? When Sun Qingxue laughed, the wine immortal was a little embarrassed, but when he heard Yang Chen's tone, he immediately refreshed, and regardless of whether it was in line with his yuanying stage predecessor identity, he leaned forward and asked anxiously, "What do you want? What does the senior have?" Yang Chen would not take the initiative to say what he wanted. The purpose was too strong, maybe it would be self-defeating. Let the wine immortal say it himself, that was appropriate. The wine immortal was a little embarrassed on the spot. He had a good life of wine. Most of the things were related to wine. There were really not many other things. Even his cultivation base was also because of drinking, just like Shangguan Feng. He liked to do business and was obsessed with it, and his cultivation base was naturally slowly profound. Because of this reason, except for things related to wine, there were not many wine immortals. The reason why there was eternal spring wood on him was because of another characteristic of eternal spring wood. The wine jars and cups made of eternal spring wood could preserve the original taste of the wine to the greatest extent, preventing it from evaporating. However, before he could use it, it was swapped out by Sun Qingxue. Yang Chen liked alchemy, which the wine immortal knew. The matter of the auction house was so big that the Blue Cloud sect almost directly punished hundreds of disciples. How could the well-informed wine immortal not be clear? However, he has the things to make wine, but the things to make alchemy, the wine immortal can be worried. Suddenly, the wine immortal remembered one thing, and suddenly slapped his thigh in surprise and shouted loudly, "You will like this!" As he said that, he took 2 steps forward and asked with a smile, "If I have some information about a high-grade fire seed, I wonder if I can exchange it for your wine?" "Yes, of course you can." Yang Chen's eyes also lit up on the spot. When he first questioned his family about Danfang, he said that everyone was allowed to exchange fire seeds for medicinal pills, and Chunyang Palace has been vigorously collecting fire seed. Of course, it was possible to exchange it for wine. "I know where there is netherworld fire and evil fire." Hearing that Yang Chen agreed to exchange, the wine immortal immediately reported the names of the 2 flames. 5th grade fire seed, how much wine can you exchange it for? It's just news, not fire seeds. Yang Chen smiled and corrected it, and brought the wine immortal to the news side. The news of 5th grade fire seed, 400 jin, how about it? Deal. The wine immortal was overjoyed. 400 jin of Yang Chen's wine, drink a little bit, a jin a day, can support more than a year. The news of 2 kinds of fire seeds was 800 jin, more than 2 years. Such a long time was enough to find some other news. By the way, can other news be exchanged? After discovering that the news could be exchanged for wine, the wine immortal immediately realized that he had other sources of news. Alchemy materials, all kinds of pill furnaces, can these be exchanged? Yes. Yang Chen nodded again, which made the wine immortal happy to the extreme. He didn't have much other things, but this kind of news could be caught in a lot, how much he wanted. Doesn't this mean that he can find Yang Chen at any time in the future to exchange for wine? However, senior, this younger generation junior, has not brewed the auxiliary wine yet. Yang Chen hurriedly interrupted the happiness of the wine immortal, and said the ugly words first. "If you want the distiller's yeast to be melted, it will be at least a year later. No problem, I can use these 2 for the time being." Of course, the wine immortal knows that brewing takes time, but he is almost inseparable from Yang Chen's wine. If these days are interrupted, it will be a big trouble, and it can really kill him. In addition, senior, we have an agreement in advance. Yang Chen once again made an agreement with the wine immortal. If you use some outdated news to perfunctory words, don't blame this younger generation junior for not appreciating it. That is natural. The wine immortal did not dare to boast about anything else, but he could completely pat his chest and guarantee, which one you think is not suitable, you cannot count it. Good. Yang Chen finally no longer had other requirements, but it seemed that he thought of something and asked curiously, every time the senior comes to send the news by himself? What if this younger generation junior has no fixed place to do? Easy. The wine immortal relied on the news to mix among the cultivators. Of course, he had his own way. Every big market has a wine immortal house, that is my business. There is nothing else inside. If you need any news, you can go inside and ask the shopkeeper. If you leave something, you can leave it to the shopkeeper. With that, the wine immortal directly handed over a small jade card. Take this, as long as you show it to the shopkeeper, he will tell you what to do. After receiving the jade card, Yang Chen couldn't help but be in awe. The wine immortal seemed to be playing with dust, but this arrangement was definitely a big deal. No wonder he could navigate between several major sects. Those who could live so well in this world were not easy to deal with. Well, this younger generation junior will go out to experience in the near future. If the senior needs it, you can change some first. Yang Chen did not forget to remind the wine immortal. When this younger generation junior returns to the sect after the brewing, I will leave some to the sect's palace master. Even if this younger generation junior is not in the sect, the senior can also change it. This was to let the wine immortal and the head of the palace to trade. What news was needed, it was decided by the head of the palace. It was a very easy trick to connect the news of the wine immortal with the Chunyang palace. Good. The wine immortal felt that this arrangement was good. Otherwise, if Yang Chen retreated for decades, he would not be greedy to death. After that, he suddenly thought of a question. What is the name of this wine? There must be a name, right? Jade Dragon Wine. Yang Chen was too lazy to think of a too elegant name and directly gave this. Chapter 499. The name doesn't matter, the key is to have a title. Yang Chen just thought that the old Dragon King should have a dragon, but he didn't want to be so obvious, so he simply took one. Well, Jade Dragon Wine is Jade Dragon Wine. Jiu Xian is a guy who only cares about the taste and doesn't care about the poetic name of this wine. As long as it tastes good in the mouth, the rest doesn't matter. I will tell you where the Netherworld Fire is, in exchange for your 400 pounds of Jade Dragon Wine. Jiu Xian is really like the gambling character that Yang Chen values. He doesn't take advantage of the transaction at all. He even deducts the 80 pounds that the three people drank this time. Yang Chen certainly doesn't care about this wine. He directly gave him 5 drops of distiller's yeast and let him find a suitable auxiliary wine. Jiu Xian almost laughed happily. This time, the 80 pounds of wine, the three people didn't drink much, almost all of it was cheap to Jiu Xian. In the Qianquan bag of Jiu Xian, there were 80 pounds of Jade Dragon Wine and 5 drops of distiller's yeast, and in the mind of Yang Chen, there was more news about the Netherworld Fire. If you get the fire seed of this Netherworld Fire, Yang Chen will reach 5 kinds of 5th grade flames. There are 2 kinds that haven't been absorbed yet. These 2 kinds of 5th grade flames, plus more than 100 kinds of 1st, 2nd and 3rd grade fire seeds, are enough to let Yang Chen's fire attribute cultivation base rush to the peak of the foundation stage, and even the success of Jiedon. Both sides are happy and feel that they have achieved their own goals. Yang Chen is also in a good mood, and Sun Qingxue is also very happy. Taking this opportunity, Yang Chen sent an invitation to Sun Qingxue to go out and gain experience. The sect has this intention. Sun Qingxue will not disobey Yang Chen. Almost without any hesitation, Sun Qingxue agreed to Yang Chen's invitation. However, when they were bidding farewell to Master Hua Wanting, the 2 of them were asked to stay by Elder Hua. Where are you going to gain experience? As his only disciple, Elder Hua had always doted on him. Even though this wasn't the first time he had gone out, Elder Hua was still very worried and insisted on getting to the bottom of things. Of course, the care and concern of an elder had to be explained clearly. However, Yang Chen just casually mentioned 2 ordinary places and did not tell them the destination they planned to go this time. In fact, until now, Sun Qingxue had no idea where she was going. She only knew that Yang Chen invited her, and she agreed. As for where they were going, Sun Qingxue did not care, as long as she could be with Yang Chen. Yang Chen sighed with emotion at the simplicity of Sun Qingxue. At the same time, he also remembered the ruthlessness of the dancing snow fairy in his previous life. It was simply not a person at all. In front of Yang Chen, Elder Hua gave Sun Qingxue a lot of various types of magic weapons, all kinds of medicinal pills, and almost all the dangers she might encounter were taken into account. It was as if Elder Hua was packing a bag for a child on a long journey, although this was the case in essence. Then, Yang Chen was also repeatedly told that he must take good care of little Shui and not let her be in danger and so on, which made Yang Chen stunned. Where was this a master of the Deshang stage? It was clearly a mortal parent. With Sun Qingxue, it was not easy to leave the Blue Cloud sect under the warning of Elder Hua. The two flew for a long time and changed to Yang Chen's shuttle. Until they completely left the Blue Cloud sect's territory, Yang Chen breathed a sigh of relief. Master is just worried about me. Sun Qingxue seemed to understand what Yang Chen was hiding from, but said with a smile. Being spoiled by her master, Sun Qingxue felt very happy. But, if you have been growing up under the care of your master, your state of mind will stop here. Yang Chen had a different opinion. In this world of the law of the jungle, it was not easy to correct Gong Suanling's ideas. As a result, there was no problem with the dancing snow fairy in his previous life, but now she has become a flower in a greenhouse. In his previous life, Sun Qingxue could only fight for everything by herself because her master was not powerful. Not only did she have to abolish her own cultivation base with the help of the Great Tribulation, but everything needed for cultivation was obtained by Sun Qingxue's crazy struggle. But in this life, Sun Qingxue was placed under the door of Hua Wanting and Elder Hua, and her life was different from then on. Whether it was a cultivation method, medicinal pill or magic weapon, almost everything was there, no one dared to bully, no one would neglect. This kind of life was indeed very easy to cultivate a person into a tender seedling that was too weak to stand up to the wind. Little Shui, have you ever killed anyone? Yang Chen suddenly asked. Sun Qingxue shook her head. She was a disciple of the Blue Cloud sect, and no one dared to provoke her at will. The last time she came out, she went directly to Chunyang Palace and then waited for Yang Chen. There was no opportunity to argue with people. Have you ever killed a monster? Yang Chen asked again. Still shaking her head, Yang Chen could not help but sigh secretly. He thought that the master of the Deshang stage, Hua Wanting, was a good master, but he did not expect that she was even more protective than Gao Yu. Now Sun Qingxue was the Gong Sunling of his previous life. The academic school relied on her qualifications to improve her cultivation base, and the final result could only be failure. Yang Chen had to be patient and said his worries and possible consequences to Sun Qingxue, more serious than ever. I know all of this. To Yang Chen's surprise, Sun Qingxue was very clear about this. This made Yang Chen a little puzzled. Since she knew, why did she still maintain her current appearance? I just don't want Master to worry. Sun Qingxue smiled and said, Over the years, Master has taught me a lot and given me a lot of care. I just don't want to let her worry these days. Hua Wanting was entangled by the blood demon vine for hundreds of years, and it was not easy to escape from death, and also got a disciple with good qualifications. Of course, she regarded her as a sweetheart, she was afraid of falling in her hands, and she was afraid of melting in her mouth. However, Sun Qingxue, who grew up in an official's family, knew that this was because of Hua Wanting's previous experience, and because she had just been promoted to the Deshang stage, and her state of mind was unstable. As long as this period of time passed, Hua Wanting would realize the problem, and Sun Qingxue would return to the normal track. Sun Qingxue's analysis made Yang Qin stunned. He had to admit that although he had already thought highly of Sun Qingxue, this time he still thought of Sun Qingxue simply. Not to mention anything else, just that she could analyze this from Hua Wanting's character and cultivation stage made Yang Qin look at her with admiration. It seems that his initial worries were in vain. At the same time, he couldn't help but sigh. The dancing snow fairy was the dancing snow fairy. He still looked down on the masters. Big brother Yang, can you tell us now, where are we going to experience this time? Looking at Yang Chen's worried appearance at the beginning, Sun Qingxue was very happy, and now began to ask him about the destination of his experience. Chapter 500. Let's go here. Since Sun Qingxue knew it herself, she was just doing her filial piety to cooperate with Hua Wanting for decades. Yang Chen was relieved, took out the wooden sign that he got from drunken Immortal, and put it on the table. Here. Sun Qingxue looked at Yang Chen incredibly. She really didn't understand what this meant. This wooden sign, to be precise, is the key to a secret plane. Yang Chen smiled. He knew that Sun Qingxue would be surprised, and he did not feel surprised. A secret plane that has not been discovered. What was the secret plane? Sun Qingxue was of course clear. Chunyang Palace had a secret pavilion, and Blue Cloud sect also had a similar place. Unless it was a great contribution to the sect, it was impossible to enter. The secret plane was left by the sect that had disappeared, and whoever found it would be the one who owned it. Only the two of us? Sun Qingxue woke up from that incredible feeling, and still asked in doubt. Of course. Yang Chen replied with a smile. If there are more people, maybe the things inside will not be ours. In a secret plane, no one knows how many things there will be. If you bring others, you will definitely get a bigger share. If you encounter a bad character, maybe there will be some things that will not be evenly divided. If it is a master, it is really hard to say who will have the last thing. Yang Chen trusted Sun Qingxue, and Sun Qingxue also had extreme trust in Yang Chen. There would never be such a problem between the two. But it was hard to say if outsiders were added. In this way, the two of them were just right. Ours. Sun Qingxue seemed not sure. In Sun Qingxue's mind, this was Yang Chen bringing her along to benefit her. The key to the secret plane was won by Yang Chen from the Wine Immortal. He knew that this was the key to the secret plane because Yang Chen was knowledgeable. Sun Qingxue herself did not contribute at all. This was a share out of thin air. Sun Qingxue was ashamed. Of course. Yang Chen smiled and looked at Sun Qingxue's hesitant look. He seemed to know what she was thinking. He raised his hand and gently touched Sun Qingxue's head. Don't think about it. You'd better think about it. If there is a guardian beast in the secret plane, how will you deal with it? When it came to fighting, Sun Qingxue was no longer as confident as before. After all, she had never experienced a battle, whether it was with a human or a demonic beast. In this case, Yang Chen did not dare to take risks casually. He casually found a place for low-level disciples to gain experience and pulled Sun Qingxue to hunt low-level monsters to practice. No way, combat experience is not something that can be completely inherited by words or face-to-face teaching. Without actual combat, no matter how valuable the experience is, it can only be a theory. It is impossible to combine it with practice. Sun Qingxue's cultivation base was good. Now she was in the middle stage of the foundation stage. She had wasted more than 10 years of time. She was absolutely outstanding in terms of qualifications. But even if the qualifications were good, when facing these low-level monsters, she was still flustered and made countless mistakes. If it wasn't for Yang Chen who had been taking care of her, maybe Sun Qingxue would have fallen into the hands of these low-level monsters. The place chosen by Yang Chen was known to many people. Most of the talents in the late stage of qi refining or the peak of qi refining were here. Yang Chen and Sun Qingxue, two experts in the foundation stage, seemed very out of place here. However, neither of them cared about those strange gazes. They did not come here to fight with those people for the monsters, but to give Sun Qingxue some simple combat experience. Soon, the two left here. But there were still people who recognized Yang Chen and Sun Qingxue. Among them were some disciples of the Blue Cloud sect. Next, the news was passed back to the Blue Cloud sect and reached the ears of Elder Hua Wanting. Hearing that Yang Chen first took Sun Qingxue to such a low-level place to fight, Hua Wanting immediately realized that she had made a mistake in cultivating Sun Qingxue. Fortunately, Yang Chen was now helping her remedy. If Sun Qingxue was delayed because of this, then she, as a master, would not be able to redeem herself even if she died 100 times. While Hua Wanting had some regrets, she could not help but be more and more optimistic about Yang Chen. This young man not only saved her own life, but also took Sun Qingxue to accumulate combat experience step by step. It seemed that the Tao companion that Sun Qingxue found herself seemed to have a good eye. Sun Qingxue was worthy of being the dancing snow fairy of the previous life. In a few days, she had already mastered the essentials of fighting with those low-level monsters. Then the two changed to a place suitable for the cultivators of the foundation stage to gain experience and started fighting again. Of course, the main thing was that Sun Qingxue was fighting, and Yang Chen was watching on the side and giving advice at the same time. Yang Chen himself never made a move. Even if he made a move, it was only when Sun Qingxue was in a crisis and could not protect herself. But it was only to take Sun Qingxue out of danger, but he would never help Sun Qingxue to eliminate the opponent. At the beginning, Sun Qingxue would frequently encounter danger, but soon, this situation became less and less. Sun Qingxue was like a dry sponge, madly absorbing all kinds of combat experience. The speed of growth made Yang Chen feel shocked. In just 4 or 5 days, Sun Qingxue could basically defeat the monsters here that were equivalent to the strength of the early stage of the foundation stage. She began to fight with the monsters of the middle stage of the foundation stage, and she was not at a disadvantage. This was already the realm of Sun Qingxue's own cultivation base. At this rate, maybe after a few months, Sun Qingxue could challenge the monsters of the early stage of the Jidan stage. However, the monsters of this level have not opened their spiritual wisdom. They can't be compared with the old cunning guys like Shi Kuei and Xiesha, let alone the old tree demon. Low-level monsters were low-level monsters. They only knew how to use their instincts to fight, and they were very easy to deal with. To Yang Chen, the biggest enemy was still people. Sun Qingxue could kill the monsters again. If she met a cunning cultivator, even if the cultivator's cultivation base was lower than her, she might still suffer a loss. This principle also applies to Gao Yu and Gong Sunling. Even if they have more experience in the Blue Vault Mountain Immortal's cave, they still have to learn to deal with people. Fortunately, now Sun Qingxue has just begun to learn. Maybe in the near future, Hua Wanting will change her mind and focus on cultivating Sun Qingxue. Sun Qingxue still has the opportunity to become the dancing snow fairy of the previous life. After 2 months of combat experience, Sun Qingxue's growth was amazing. She could already fight with the monsters of the late stage of the foundation stage without falling into a disadvantage. There was no point in staying here. Yang Chen decisively decided to leave. Next, go to the secret plane? Sun Qingxue's recent addiction to fighting, especially after a series of hard battles to defeat the opponent, the sense of accomplishment was very pleasant. Hearing that Yang Chen was going to the secret plane immediately, she was a little surprised and a little reluctant. Chapter 501. Sharpening the spear before the battle has been polished, Yang Chen also decided not to waste time. Sun Qingxue could not compare with Shi Shanshan at this point. At least when Yang Chen and Shi Shanshan went to find the blood essence of the howling celestial dog, in terms of combat, Shi Shanshan did not need Yang Chen's guidance at all, and the two cooperated quite tacitly. This secret plane, Yang Chen found clues from the ancient text on the wooden sign. From the age alone, it was already very old. However, the formation displayed by the secret key was not very advanced. This could only explain one thing, that the secret plane was not a very advanced place. Maybe it was a small martial arts sect. After being destroyed, the inheritance was broken, so no one has ever found the secret plane. Since it was a small martial arts sect, naturally there would not be too many good things. Now the only thing that Yang Chen was looking forward to was that the secret plane might be able to grow some medicinal herbs of sufficient years because of its long history. As for other things, Yang Chen did not expect it at all. In addition to this, Yang Chen just wanted to let Sun Qingxue have a little more experience in exploration, and did not want to make a fortune from it. The secret plane that really had good things would definitely be searched 3 feet deep. How could it be left until now? Of course, the most important thing was that Yang Chen had to complete the entrustment of the head of the palace and practice with Sun Qingxue. However, Yang Chen did not realize that it seemed that Sun Qingxue was becoming more and more obsessed with himself, which was not the effect he wanted. As for why Yang Chen would have such an attitude towards Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue, he himself had no experience in dealing with feelings. Secondly, these two would be super fierce people who would be famous in the world in the future. It was better not to offend them. The location of the secret plane was not a famous mountain or river. Obviously, the good places have been occupied by some famous sections. A small sect that was destroyed was only worthy of staying in some corner places. The speed of the shuttle was very fast, but it still took almost a month to reach the destination. According to this calculation, this place was already at the edge of the Dao sect's territory, just like the 100,000 mountains. This place is really desolate. There were a few dilapidated hills without even a single tree. Almost all of them were bare rock. They were simply a few stone mountains. Seeing all this, the first sentence Sun Qingxue said after coming down from the shuttle was this: "Even if it's a bustling place, it won't be our turn." Yang Chen smiled as he put away the shuttle. After standing still, he began to look around. The key to the secret plane only said that the secret plane was here, but the specific location was not said, and Yang Chen and Sun Qingxue needed to look for it carefully. As long as he found the entrance to the formation, he could use the key to enter. Speaking of which, it was similar to finding the blood essence of the howling celestial dog back then. He only knew the approximate location, but he had to find the entrance. However, this secret plane was completely incomparable to the valley where the blood essence of the howling celestial dog was stored. Sun Qingxue participated in this kind of adventure for the first time, and she was very excited. She was looking for it in the mountains inch by inch. Yang Chen did not dispel her enthusiasm and simply accompanied her, so he found it all the way. What surprised Yang Chen was that he thought that it would be easy to find the entrance to the secret plane in such a bare place with a glance, but he and Sun Qingxue searched for a whole 2 days and the surrounding mountains have been turned over, and they found nothing. Has the secret plane been opened? Sun Qingxue even had such doubts. Take your time. Yang Chen was very patient to persuade. There was still a gap between Sun Qingxue and Shi Shanshan, at least in the state of mind. At that time, Shi Shanshan accompanied Yang Chen to find the valley where the blood essence of the howling celestial dog was found for 3 months, but she did not say a word of doubt. Of course, this required a long time of cultivation and experience, and it was not something that could be solved in just a few months. In the following time, they almost turned over all the mountains inch by inch, but unfortunately, they never found the entrance to the secret plane. Think about it carefully, where else have we not looked? This time the search was more detailed and it took almost 10 days. Yang Chen saw that Sun Qingxue was still a little impatient, and still patiently reminded. This time, the search for the secret plane was led by Sun Qingxue, and Yang Chen basically cooperated. Even if he saw it and found it, he would not take the initiative to say it. He wanted Sun Qingxue to understand something. Even if it was a small sect that was destroyed 10,000 years ago, there were still some means to hide secret. Everything Yang Chen did was to let Sun Qingxue have more knowledge. This was the experience of dealing with people, although not directly in front of them, but it could still understand some people's hearts. At least the secret room could be hidden in this place with a glance. It was a full understanding of the character of most people. From now on, Sun Qingxue was caught in a misunderstanding, thus ignoring some things, leading to more than 10 days of searching without finding any clues. There were a total of more than a dozen hills here. Flying a little higher, one could see everything at a glance. In Sun Qingxue's view, there was not much missing. But since Yang Chen reminded her, Sun Qingxue also had an unyielding momentum. Once again, she held her strength and searched around again. After carefully inspecting the area that was thousands of acres in size, he made an unexpected discovery. It seems that the 2 ponds at the foot of the mountain have not been seen. Sun Qingxue finally came to a conclusion. The 2 ponds in her mouth were basically in the dark side of the hills. It was not known how many years they had existed here. The water level had been maintained at that level, but there was no flow. The 2 ponds were not big, and there were no living things in them. It was on the dark side, and the sun could not shine here. It looked like it had been here for a long time, and it was already stinky. This was also the reason why Sun Qingxue came here only to explore with her spiritual awareness, and did not look carefully. How are you going to see it? Yang Chen looked at Sun Qingxue with a smile, waiting for her to take further action. It was not known how many years of dirty water. Sun Qingxue, a delicate and fragrant beauty, looked really disgusting. But it was undeniable that if the secret plane was really hidden underwater, it could indeed make many people afraid of this and ignore it. I will go down and see. Yang Chen has been watching. Sun Qingxue was afraid that Yang Chen would look down on her. After hesitating near the smelly pond for a long time, she finally gritted her teeth and planned to jump into the smelly pond to take a closer look. Okay. Yang Chen heard Sun Qingxue make this decision, and she was already planning to go down, so he stopped Sun Qingxue's behavior. You have this determination, you don't have to go down. Why? Sun Qingxue did not understand. Because you can't find it even if you go down. Yang Chen explained with a smile. Chapter 502. Why? This made Sun Qingxue even more surprised. She really couldn't understand it. Only these 2 places have not been carefully searched. How can I not find it? The entrance is not here. How can I find it? Yang Chen replied with a smile. Since you have the determination to go down and act, it is enough. You don't have to really stink and turn yourself into a stinky girl. You are a stinky girl. Sun Qingxue could only act coquettishly to Yang Chen, but still couldn't figure it out. Why is the entrance not here? While talking, Sun Qingxue's spiritual awareness quickly explored the water. Although her spiritual awareness was limited, and the spiritual awareness would be greatly weakened in the water, but the stinky pond in front of her quickly explored the bottom. Flying to the side of another pond, the spiritual awareness explored it, and it was the same situation, and it was easy to explore the bottom of the pond. Is there anything unusual in the exploration of the spiritual awareness? Yang Chen was on the side, smiled and watched Sun Qingxue do all this, then asked. There is nothing unusual, Sun Qingxue said with grievance. If it was not carefully explored, it meant that she did not go down to see it personally. Her spiritual awareness had checked, and she did not find anything wrong. It stands to reason that there is nothing wrong. Doesn't it mean that the entrance is not here? But how can Yang Chen be sure? These 2 ponds, it is likely that they have been here for tens of thousands of years and have not dried up. Don't you find it strange? Yang Chen reminded again. Is there a water outlet below? Sun Qingxue immediately thought of what she had missed. There was a water outlet. indicating that there was a water vein. It should be running water. How could it be a pool of stagnant water? Yes, if you check it carefully, you should find this out. Yang Chen continued to point, but he never meant to do it. Sun Qingxue moved closer to the pond. She endured the stench of the pond and used her divine sense to explore. Soon, in a remote corner, she found a very secret water outlet. Following the water outlet, Sun Qingxue was frustrated. She couldn't find the bottom. It's very easy for people to find this suspicious point and investigate along the water vein. Standing a little further away, Yang Chen explained to Sun Qingxue, however, the more curious you are, the more likely you are to be deceived. How? Sun Qingxue couldn't help but ask. If my divine sense is strong enough, I will find that there are spiritual fluctuations under the water vein. Yang Chen smiled and said, then, someone will be like a certain little fool, enduring the stench and jumping into the stinky ditch, wantonly digging. In the end, they will find that it is just an ordinary stagnant water formation, nothing at all. What's the point of doing this? Sun Qingxue asked in confusion. She was already thinking about what Yang Chen was telling her. It doesn't make any sense. Yang Chen smiled slightly. People have been exterminated, this thing is just purely disgusting. When she thought about it, she almost couldn't help but jump into the stinky pond. Although she had learned the water escape, she still had to be in the water. If Yang Chen hadn't stopped her, maybe she would have been a stinky girl soaked in the stinky water. Thinking of this, Sun Qingxue couldn't help but feel a chill. After adjusting herself to normal, Sun Qingxue asked curiously, "It's not in the water, nor on the mountain, where is it?" Actually, you still ignored a place. Yang Chen left with Sun Qingxue and returned to the top of the mountain. Without smelling the stench, he said. There is still a place that I overlooked? Sun Qingxue almost screamed. After more than a month, she had turned it over 3 times, and there were still places that she had overlooked. But Sun Qingxue's unyielding character broke out again. Don't say it first, I'll think about it myself. It had to be said that Sun Qingxue's experience was still insufficient. Even if she was patient and turned it over for a whole month, she still didn't find anything unusual. In the end, Sun Qingxue could only come to Yang Chen and wait for his explanation. You looked very detailed, but you only paid attention to the ground and the water. Yang Chen smiled and gave Sun Qingxue a cup of jade dragon wine to let her relax, and then said, "Did you find anything unusual in the sky?" Sun Qingxue looked up at the sky. The sky was clear, there was a little breeze, and there were a few white clouds floating in the sky. Everything looked normal. What was wrong? Do you think the weather here is normal? Yang Chen asked again, which seemed to be more reminders. It's normal. Sun Qingxue replied quickly. In this more than a month, there were sunny days, cloudy days, rainy days, windy days, and there was often no abnormality in the weather. Don't you think that the days when there are no clouds in the sky have almost never appeared? At this time, Yang Chen no longer kept her guessing and directly expressed his doubts. Sun Qingxue has been looking for the secret plane with all her heart, how could she pay attention to the changes in the weather? Now that Yang Chen reminded her, she was not sure. However, since Yang Chen said so, there must be his reason. Sun Qingxue did not refute it and nodded directly, admitting it. There is a large area where clouds always appear. Yang Chen looked up at the sky and drew a circle with his hand. More or less, there will always be clouds, and they are concentrated in that area, which is very abnormal. Yang Chen discovered this after half a month of searching. At first, Yang Chen also suspected that it was underwater, but after Yang Chen's powerful spiritual awareness threads explored the bottom of the water vein, he found that it was a trap. After discovering the trap, Yang Chen began to pay attention to the surrounding environment, so he soon noticed the abnormality in the sky. Right now, there were several clusters of clouds floating in the sky, constantly changing shape and moving position with the breeze. But as Yang Chen said, in that large area, there will always be clouds, Even if the wind blows away, there will soon be new clouds. Is it possible that the secret plane is hidden in the air? Such an obvious hint, if Sun Qingxue still couldn't guess it, she would be a fool. Go up and see. Yang Chen summoned the shuttle and flew quickly to the height of the clouds with Sun Qingxue. After a big circle in the suspected area of Yangchen, Sun Qingxue found a clue. There were actually a few points here that had spiritual power fluctuations. If one approached within 2 feet, they would discover that there were a few floating array formations that were constantly moving. In the formation, some water vapor was constantly produced, and it looked like clouds below. These formations were very delicate, and if you didn't get very close, you couldn't detect it at all. This was the wilderness, and it was not easy for people to pass by. It had not been noticed for tens of thousands of years, it was too normal,